NUFC Early Night News with Gary DeJordy Yum Yum, Andrew Boki, Christina Cage, and Derek the Mighty Wind. Weekdays from 8 p.m. UK, 2 p.m. USA. NUFC Talk.
There we go. Welcome to NUFC Talk TV, the early night show, live on DAB radio across Newcastle, Gateshead and Concert, live on YouTube and the website nufcradio.com with myself, Tim, and Christina Cage, Borky, and the Mighty Win. How are you doing?
Good. What a bunch of shysters according to Quinny 666. Hey, Quinny.
Good to see you in, Quinny, and keep your comments coming throughout the show if you can, because it's International Week, and yeah, I'm missing the Premier League. I don't know how you feel. Are you sick of it yet, or what do you think of International Week?
When it isn't.
Do you hate it? What do you think, Christina? Is it terrible for you, do you say?
Yeah, I don't like it. I've never been a big fan of international football to begin with. So like I don't have the invested interest like I do in the Premier League with Newcastle and how it affects us. So it's just kind of like, I mean, the occasional international match is quite fun. Like I'll watch like Spain versus Brazil or, you know, France occasionally, but like I wouldn't. It's not something that I enjoy because all I do is sit there and wait for the Premier League to come back and think, oh, imagine if Newcastle had a game this weekend. Like, you don't realise how much you miss it until it's not here.
You know what you've got till it's gone.
Yeah, that's it. Are you the same, Borky?
Yeah, I'd rather pour cocktail sticks in my eyes and sit and watch an international match, to be honest. They don't interest me whatsoever.
Yeah. Thing is, with England as well, I think it's boring as hell at Wembley. It just seems proper soulless, doesn't it? I haven't been there, the new Wembley, but the atmosphere seems terrible, doesn't it?
Well, the Cockneys, isn't it? That's the problem.
There you go.
Didn't one of the managers mention it? I think it was Tuchel in his first job, and he was like, well, the England fans are a bit garbage. I was like, all right, welcome to the team, mate.
Yeah. Got a comment there from...
I get quite invested when it's, you know, Euro qualifiers, World Cup qualifiers, etc., etc.
Definitely, aye.
But, mind you, having said that, Italy could be still getting to the world, even though Bosnia-Herzegovina knocked them out last night, which means they'll be missing that'll be the first World Cup winners ever to miss out on 3 consecutive World Cups. Boo-hoo Tonali. But there is a backdoor in for them, apparently. This one's on and off. Because with Iran potentially being excluded, that's a place to fill. So Italy, out of all the nations who haven't qualified, Italy are the highest ranking. So there's an argument for them to go in. However, the Asian Confederation are saying, no, if Iran don't go, it has to be the highest ranking Asian team, which I kind of agree with. But on the other hand, we have 4 fingers. And that is Sweden could yet, even though they lost every single qualifier, they could still qualify because they won the Nations Conference League Division A, which we got relegated from, if you remember. And this is where all of these little bits of the jigsaw that I keep telling Borky about with the coefficients that he poo-poos and doesn't want to know. This is where these can all come to your rescue, if you like. So that's a possible backdoor for the rat and his pals.
I haven't got a clue what you're talking about, but I'm sure it is important.
With Italy, right? If Italy don't make it and don't make the back door through that very complicated route you've explained, win of sorts, do you think it's better for us with regards to Tonali to get his future resolved early doors?
Well,
if he's not busy with the World Cup.
there's that, but there's also the fact that he'll actually be training with the squad as opposed to being away with Italy training. He'll be getting rest and he'll be training with the squad when he comes back. We'll not be having to wait for their plane landing.
I can imagine him going to Italy, going with Italy to the World Cup if they do qualify, and playing really well, and loads of speculation about, well, this team now wants him, this team wants him, and it dragging on and on and on potentially. So I think it would be a good thing if he didn't go myself.
Oh, I think it'd be a great thing. Not
Aye.
least because Italy wouldn't be there to be, you know, regardless of how they fared in the qualifiers, they would still be one of the favourites when they got there, along with the usual suspects.
I think it's maybe a good thing that he gets a rest because he has played a lot of football over the last season.
Well, he hasn't played enough, has he?
So, but I mean, he hasn't
With his
played
year off.
Well, he's year off. I'm saying since then he's played pretty much week in, week out, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it might be good to have a summer off for him. As I
Yeah.
say, the internationals don't interest us, but I think as many players, of our players that don't go, the better. For me, as the way I look at it, if you can keep them here as Wednesdays, get them holidayed up, and then start trading, because that's another issue we're going to have this summer, is that they're going to be all the internationals get an extra week or two off, don't they? So again,
Yeah.
you're not going to have all the training time with them that you should in a pre-season.
Yeah, and the thing with that is that there won't be quote Eddie ready, will there?
Hopefully,
Well,
it
you
won't
know,
have to be Eddie ready.
Well,
If
I knew you were
if
going to
they're
say that
playing,
one.
if they're playing in the World Cup, they're gonna be fit anyway, if not over fit, and the fact that they're part of those, you would argue, elite squads because of the fact they're there. Do they need to be quote unquote Eddie ready?
True. I think maybe it's a tactical side as well with Eddie Howe. Very meticulous that way. I've got a Marks Anderson saying in the chat, what does Tonali bring to us? So it's a flat out question. Anybody want to take that up?
Well, I did can you remember when I did the Sean Longstaff with and without spreadsheet, which showed that
Yeah.
Sean Longstaff was worth, when he started, he was worth 19 points and 26 goals a season. And if you do the same, which I have done with Tonali, we're actually 12 points worse off. Now I'm not putting that down to Tonali, but I'm just saying the win ratio when he plays is lower than what the win ratio was when Longstaff played.
Shall we give somebody who...
Longstaff played a lot less games, though, didn't he, in a season? And Tonali doesn't play the same position as Longstaff did. Longstaff was more further forward. So you're not comparing the same things there. And with Tonali, the thing he brings to the team is he brings passion, he brings absolute commitment, and he brings a skill level that in midfield I don't think I've really ever seen before in regards to what he can do that other players can't do. So he might not be the best midfielder I've ever seen at Newcastle, but he's got things he can do with his game that other players couldn't dream of doing.
The one thing he's got for me that's like unsurpassed is his engine. He just gets about so quickly all over the pitch, you know, and I mean literally all over the pitch. If you look at some of his heat maps, they're outrageous. Like,
Yeah.
you know, there's the old saying, he covered every blade of grass. And if you look at some of Tonali's heat maps, I'll get a couple up in a minute. They're just insane.
You know what, though, right, Wayne, is that it goes back to what we've said before, that it's like the Lampard-Gerrard thing with Bruno and Tonali, because Bruno wants to be everywhere as well. And as good as they are, how many times have we said this season that there's gaps between the midfield and defence, and we're exposed? So, like, it's about the team, isn't it? And it's how do you fit these players in to be a functional team that works well going forward and well going back. And I think the obvious answer, I suppose, is a number 6, and I think maybe Lewis Miley could do that job. Um, I mean, I would maybe play 2 midfield anyway, but if you stick with the 3, I'm thinking Miley. He's played right back. He's got that defensive capability. He can read the game. We need somebody to read the game. It's not just about kind of being in the middle. It's about looking over your shoulder and tracking runs. So, do you think? I mean, would you want to see Miley in that more reserved role, or would you want to see him higher up, Christina?
Yeah, I mean, I've been crying out since I like first started being a panelist on here for Newcastle United to play with an actual defensive midfielder. I floated the idea of Malik Chow or Fabian Schär in that role, and that was at a time when I saw Lewis Miley as a bit more of a like a more of an attacking midfielder. But now that I've seen him at right back and even in centre back, I think he's the absolute perfect person to sit behind Bruno and Tonali. And I think people who are saying like, oh, you can compare it to like Lampard and Gerrard. The problem with Lampard and Gerrard is that neither one of them wanted to do what the other one wasn't doing. If you've got a dedicated number 6, so that those two players can go and wander and can go and attack, you'd almost have it. It would be more like Xavi and Iniesta rather than Lampard and Gerrard. You've got one like Tonali who can sit as the actual in number 8, your centre midfielder. You've got Miley who could sit behind them, or whoever else we get to play that number 6, and then you can have Bruno have a little bit more of an open role and a bit more freedom to just get forward and concentrate mostly on that. And he can put a tackle in as well, and he does track back. But I think if there was, if I wanted to stake my football team's entire future on who's going to put a perfect tackle in, I'd probably trust Tonali a little bit more than I would Bruno.
Yeah, I agree with that. The only drawback for me with playing Miley as 6 is that if he has to sit there then. So you're losing all his creativity, which we saw particularly when he was a lot younger, outside the box and his shots, in and around the penalty spot.
But there are defensive midfielders who can also, like, and I know it kind of goes against what we're saying, but I wouldn't be opposed to like an Edgar Davids type defensive midfielder who's very much a your number 6 type of player, but he also still could get forward. He had a fantastic shot on him.
You can pick your moments, can't you?
Yeah, I mean,
as I say, the only preference I would have for Tonali over Miley, the main preference, is just pace, because that's the one thing we are lacking defensively and in midfield. Recovery speed, and there's only Tonali really who has it.
But if this season not taught with one thing, that if we are going to get into Europe, we are going to be in multiple competitions, you have to rotate players. So it's not necessarily a case that all these lads have to play together week in, week out. It's a case of sometimes you have Bruno Miley in midfield, sometimes you'll have Tonali Miley in midfield, sometimes you have Joel's J7 Tonali in midfield. You rotate, you start rotating the midfield round. You don't get you don't get into a situation that we've got this season where some players have played absolutely mountains of players and now are injured because they're knackered, and you've got players who haven't played hardly at all this season who are having to try to come in and cover for those players.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think when I'm kind of asking this question, it's more how we see the squad, because I think it is ultimately Eddie Howe's preference not to have an out-and-out number 6. And I think when you say about rotating the squad, I think Miley probably is the only one maybe who could do that role, in my opinion, to a high level. I mean, Bruno could, don't get us wrong, Tonali maybe, but I just think those two, they want to be forward. Do you know what I mean? Their instincts ultimately is to get up the pitch when they can. And I think there's too many times players have ran in behind them and ran off them. I mean, the Barca game is a good example with Tonali, even though he's been tasked to go man to man. So if you're rotating and Miley isn't playing, who else do you put in there? Joe Linton maybe, but again, I think he's maybe a bit cumbersome on the ball to be sitting deep. I don't know. Yeah. So I think
I don't think some
maybe
games you need. You don't think some games you need to play a number 6. I think again, we'll get this focus on my head that you've got, if you play this system, you've got to stick with it rigidly. You don't. There are some games where you will need a number 6, so you need that extra little bit of defensive cover. But there are other games where you can't play 2 number 8s. You know, there are
Yeah.
games where you can trust in your defence a little bit more and go that little bit more attacking. I think that's the problem is you don't want to get rigid in a system.
That's exactly what Eddie says his 4-3-3 is. They say people say it's a 4-3-3, but it's not. It varies from game to game, depending on who the opposition is and the circumstances, and that's exactly what Eddie says. But I think what Tina and Tim are saying is that they would prefer, never mind all this variation nonsense, let's have a dedicated number 6 every game and build a team around that system. Am I right in saying that? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, but I think we need more structure. I mean, I know what you're saying, Borky. You don't want to be too rigid, and it does depend on who you're playing. You don't want to just be sticking to a system regardless of the opposition, because you're not then being proactive. But I think it's clear that Eddie Howe, the way he plays it, I think this season has been too fluid. I think you need somebody looking over the shoulder a lot more than what we've had this season. So it's a balance. I think it's a balance between kind of what you're saying, Borgie, and that you have a bit more fluid at times, but other times you certainly have that number 6 when needed. And we've went into games, tough games, where we're piling men forward and nobody's looking over the shoulder, and we're getting caught in behind time and time again.
Interesting comment there from Steve Waldo, saying Liverpool haven't got a number 6, and look at them this season. Now, there's a thing, you see, because last season, when they walked away with the title, they did have a number 6. Gravenberch played that number 6 the whole season. And since they've abandoned that formation, if you like, to bring Wirtz in, and they've lost, of course, Alexander-Arnold. Is that why they've gone to pot? Because they've abandoned the number 6. Would that be
but saying that reason? Saying that win, who was our number 6 last season?
Well, we didn't. That's the point. We didn't have a number 6.
Well, I thought Tonali. We won the cup, and we got European. You keep telling us this. We won the cup, and we got UEFA's Champions League football.
Yeah.
So, why is a number 6 this season now so much more important than it was last season?
Because I thought Tonali actually did that job quite well last season, and for whatever reason, this season he's got caught a lot defensively, and I just think that has run its course in him doing that role. And I think, don't get us wrong, I'm not saying it was an out-and-out 6 last season. I agree, it was still kind of the same system, but Tonali was able to recover a lot better defensively from what I could see last season.
But if you remember, everything changed again after the Brentford game when Tonali came in for Longstaff and he was tasked to be the number 6. Whether Eddie wants to admit that or not, watching the games, that was exactly what he did, and that was when we went on the run.
When did Longstaff leave?
Summer, wasn't it?
Summer.
Summer. So this summer.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, I thought it was longer ago. I thought he'd left in the winter transfer window.
No, he stopped getting games after the Brentford game, basically.
So in which case, if we're saying we needed this number 6 so much and we went on this downward spiral from there, why didn't Eddie put Longstaff back in the team? Especially if these metrics, as you were saying, we're not better than Tonali's.
But we didn't. When he moved Tonali to number 6, Tonali replaced Longstaff in the team, and he played as a number 6 then for the rest of the season. And that was when we went on a run. Right. And that was why Longstaff couldn't get back in the team.
Got Romo there saying Real Madrid contacted. Can you enlighten us? I think Chris will be picking that up at 9:30. So please stay tuned for that one. So with regards to the internationals, I wanted to mention this because Sweden played last night, I think, wasn't it? And a certain Anthony Elanga scored. Have you seen that goal?
I haven't, no.
I haven't seen it, no.
Have you not?
It's
Oh,
a
check it out if you can. Yeah,
an
it's a
absolute
really
banger.
good goal. Left foot strike, sweet strike outside the box. So my question was going to be, you know, when you see him do that, it's only one moment, but you know, what are your thoughts on Langer? Does it give you any hope and maybe make you rethink that, you know what, maybe, you never know, he's got something in him that we can bring out next season? I know you were saying, Win, that you basically wrote him off at this point, but
Yeah, I was very, very patient with him, but you know, listen, we saw how good he was for us, right? To me, that cannot just disappear overnight. And he's been woeful for us this season. I don't care what everybody says. Oh,
Yeah.
Langer had a good game, but that's because they're comparing it with the absolutely diabolical game that he had, you know, the three before that.
yeah.
So in comparison, he looked okay. But if anybody's telling me Alanga's had any single great game this season, and by the way, he's played a lot more than people think.
He's had his fair share of games, no doubt. He's had a fair crack at the whip, I think.
He has. And every time he keeps running the ball out in the touch and he does some good, he does the occasional good stuff, but you'd expect that from any professional footballer over 90 minutes. You're going to get something right.
Well,
But
if Sweden go to the
overall-
World Cup, yeah, go on.
Well, as I say, Sweden could go to the World Cup through the extra European players because of the European Conference League.
Just as a quick question here, then, obviously Alanga, I was seeing he had a good game against who they were playing.
Don't know, I've just seen the goal.
All right, but we have seen Baltimore. He had a good game. He played well in the two games that we're seeing him in. With England players that Newcastle had in their games, fair enough, they lost, but none of them sort of let themselves down. Why are they doing better within international football? Why are they producing there, but not producing at club level?
But
I
I
wonder
didn't
where
think
you're going with
Baltimore
this,
had a
Bob.
good game.
Sorry?
I didn't think Baltimore had a good game.
You didn't think Baltimore had a good game?
No,
So you
I
thought
didn't
he
say
was
it myself.
poor? You thought he was poor?
I did think he was poor. He had two shots in 90 minutes, and he missed hit the post with a sitter with one of them.
Right, so he had shots at target, which he's not getting at Newcastle. So why is he getting... I'll take it out, even saying he's had a good game. Why is he getting shots away with international football that he's not getting at
He had two shots.
football at the town? When was the last time he had two shots for Newcastle in a game?
Oh, we need to go and have a look, but certainly he gets that in the game.
But
I've been
I'm
probably
saying
not recently because he's been playing in midfield recently for
Yeah.
Newcastle. I mean, I think
I'm
it's
saying,
a
why are these
twofold-
players playing better? Why are these players playing better at international football is the question that I'm asking.
Well,
So I
Christina,
think
did
I
you
don't
see him
think they
play?
are.
Christina, did you see him play, Walter Mara?
Yeah.
Right, what do you think? How do you think he played?
I thought he played quite well. I thought he was very involved. I think he had a good touch. He was getting himself into good positions, even though he wasn't playing as an out-and-out centre forward. I think he had a really good game, and I think Alanga had a good game yesterday as well. I mean, his goal was world class, and I can also, I mean, if you don't mind, I'll offer my answer on why they're doing better at international level than they are for Newcastle. So, first of all, at international level, you've got the fact that the team that you're playing against is never going to be a fully organised unit. These players aren't working together week in, week out on the training field. They're not putting together a low block tactic. They're not putting together, these players get together, they train for a couple of weeks, they play their game. Exactly the same as it does for England. As well as that, international football, very much like European football, you get a bit more time and space on the ball. It's not as physical. It's not as tight defending, a little bit scrappy as the Premier League is. So I think those two reasons are possibly why that they're doing better in international football. But in saying that, Anthony Elanga last season probably played better for Nottingham Forest than I've seen him ever play for Sweden. And that was in the Premier League. And I think this season his head's just not quite been in it. And I think he lost a lot of confidence. But I still believe there's a very, very good player in Anthony Elanga. And I've said since day one, and I'll keep saying it until I'm somehow proven wrong or right, Walter Mara, Season 2 is going to be an absolute world beater.
What was the formation that he played in?
At Nottingham Forest.
Sorry, Elanga. So against for Sweden, where was he playing? I know he scored that goal. He came in. It looked like from the right, but is that where he was?
Well, actually, that's a fair question. I would need to check that.
Hang on.
I wasn't watching that match, so I don't know.
I can if Win wants to bring up the
Well, while you're looking at that, Bork, you seen Volamora. Switch to him for a moment. What was the formation he was playing in?
It was quite fluid. He was a striker basically. What he was like a wide right striker. I would agree, but he was playing in a striker role.
So
And
was it
there was
a
people
sole
around
striker?
him. Basically, they almost played a false number 9. They did have another lad who was meant to be in the striker role, but they played a false number 9 in my view, and it worked because he wasn't isolated. I think that's the problem with Baltimore. It's been simple. This simple all season is you need to push the players in a little bit towards him, and not have. He's not going to score many goals from out wide with his head. So if you're swinging crosses into the box, he's not going to score a load of goals like that, even though he's tall, and that's what you would think. It's not. But in regards to it, what he needs is players around him. It's pointless having him 20, 30 yards further up the pitch than anybody else, because he's not going to spin and score you a goal. He's not going to be able to massively hold the ball up. Well, we can do that, but not to the point that a conventional striker would, with strength and sort of, getting free kicks and stuff off strikers. I think the whole point is at international level, they play higher up with them, and he's got players around him. If you,
Yeah.
we've seen it's again, it's not just Voltamora that we've seen this issue with at Newcastle this season. It's all the strikers. Whoever's up there is isolated, apart from when he puts Gordon up there, and for some reason will play about 10 yards further forward when he's up there.
Well, my question back to that, Borky, is would you change things so that our wingers are more narrow to support him, or would you play him with another striker?
I think I tried both at times. I think it's some games you could play 2 strikers. Other times, if you're going to go in with 1 striker because you want to be a more defensive unit, then you do have to bring your wingers in to play his style of football. And don't forget, we've got 2 brilliant fullbacks. We've got Tino and we've got Hall. They can cover the wings for you a little bit as well. So you just need to get players around them. You just don't want them up there. And this is the same with any striker, really. No striker just wants to be up front by themselves. I've gone on the days when you had likes of a Dion Dublin, a Shearer, a Ferguson, who were put up there just to hold the ball up, take an absolute battering, and then try to let the team catch up to them or get that free kick. Those days are gone now. You're not going to get that. And when we're putting these lads up front by themselves, it's absolutely it must be soul destroying for them, because they must see that they've got absolutely no chance. They're not going to be able to. They're not going to have anybody near them to play football with. They're not going to have the chance to hold the ball up because that's not their game. And all that's going to happen is people are going to go, well, what are they actually doing? It must be soul destroying for them.
Yeah. I remember Voltamora's, honestly, the one moment that comes to mind with him this season, probably more than any, which is a bit weird because it really didn't amount to anything. But it was against Karabag at St James's in that second leg, and it was that one moment where even though he was playing in midfield, in that one moment he popped up on the edge of the box in basically the number 10 position and swiveled and played that amazing ball through to Murphy, who was then offside. Remember that?
Beautiful.
That was like a proper glimpse into what he could potentially, I say potentially because I think he still has a few things to prove as well, but a glimpse as to what he could give you in those areas if he stuck to those areas, because that was sublime, that pass.
But again, we talked about how not wanting to play a number 6. He also doesn't want to play a number 10.
I know.
He's had multi chances to do it, multiple chances to do it, and he's never ever done it. He's done it maybe once or twice, and when he does do it, it hasn't worked. I'll free him up to that, which Win will come back with, but it's because they've never been given the chance. if you've got Wissa and you've got Voldemort sitting on the bench and you're losing 2-0, sorry, you're losing against the Mackhams, why don't you bring them two on and put them on as a dual partnership up front?
Yeah. Win?
Well, I want to see Baltimore and Wissa up front. That's what I'm waiting to see.
So why isn't Howe doing it?
Because he doesn't think they're ready, obviously.
But ready for what? They're both international footballers. They both scored goals in the Premier League. What were we waiting for?
I think Walter Morta has proven this season that he isn't physically ready for the Prem. Hopefully this, as Tina said, hopefully he's learning all about that you don't get the time, you don't get this, you don't get that, you're going to be crowded, you're going to have all of the ancillary problems that the Premiership brings by its very nature. And this season, hopefully he's learned, and next season we get the benefit.
He's not strong enough. Why?
He's not strong enough.
Well, let's make the point. If he's not strong enough, why we're dropping him back into a number 8 midfield role, then where you've got to be strong as well? Why?
Because he's not up against the centre halves there.
Well, he's up against the midfielders, and he's not a midfielder. If he's further forward, he's up against strikers. So he's up against defenders, which is what he's got to get used to, and what he will be used to from his normal football. I mean, I could talk about this all night. I do not get any good in putting that lad back into midfield. It's just the worst decision I think I've seen from any manager in a long time, spending £69 million on a striker who's a German international, then dropping him back into midfield. It makes absolutely, then playing a midfielder up front. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Like Thomas Tuchel did last night.
Well, as I say, I didn't care about international football, but we're talking about Newcastle, not England.
Tina?
You're talking about putting a midfielder up top. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is, you've watched Baltimore yourself this season.
Did he have a striker in midfield? And did Thomas Tuchel do that? Did he put a striker in midfield and put a midfielder up front?
For me, he played like 4 number 10s.
Right, but did he put a midfield? Did he put a striker in the midfield and put a?
Because
why are we doing that?
They were experimenting what to do in the event
which
of
is
Harry Kane not being available.
Which is perfect for England, but we can't afford to experiment. We're playing actual games that mean something. So why isn't Eddie Howe playing round pegs and
experiment?
Why aren't we playing round pegs and round holes?
And playing Voldemort up top is well and truly experimenting, and then it's an experiment.
Hang on.
It's an experiment that hasn't worked.
We paid £69 million for a striker, and it's experimenting playing him up front, but it's not experimenting putting him back into midfield. Explain that.
Playing him up front, we've tried. It hasn't worked.
But he scored in the first few games, didn't he? He scored in the first 6 in the first.
He scored five goals from 6 attempts. That was never going to be sustainable. He doesn't get enough shots away.
It's not sustainable it's not sustainable if you're not up front.
Yeah, when he was on his own, I do think he started really well, and then, like you said earlier, Bucky, the more he got isolated, the worse obviously he got, and I think he wasn't strong enough at times when the ball went up to him as a centre forward, and I think we needed to change the system to accommodate him up front, and whether that's the wingers being narrow or playing a second striker. For me, it screamed out that he needs a partner. That's my view. And I would have him as a number 10 with another striker ahead of him. But I think with Eddie Howe, kind of going back to what you're saying, Borky, in terms of experimenting, I think he sees it as experimenting. So when he looks at the options of playing 2 up front or changing the wingers to be a lot more narrow and changing his system that he's kind of wedded to, he sees that as experimenting while there's points at stake, and he doesn't want to do that, rightly or wrongly. I just think that's how he's looking at it. And when he put him back in the midfield, I understood the first few games maybe to do that. I mean, everyone was saying initially, oh, he's been great. He was great against Karabakh. He was great against Aston Villa, man of the match and all that, even though he was actually playing number 8 then. And I think the idea was to get him back involved in the game and get him back on the ball, get his confidence up, But I think it was at a point after those few games where you had to maybe cut that short. He's got back involved in the game. He's got more touches. Now put him back up front and get bodies around him more. But I think to continue putting him as a number 8, I think is what I've got an issue with. And against Sunderland as well, where actually I thought he did okay in that position. He was one of our best players, I thought. In that game, I think, again, you're making subs, like you say, put him up front in that game. He's actually in a good floor, but he'd be doing a lot more damage further up the pitch. So, second half, we need a goal. Yeah, get him up front. Mix it up a bit. And obviously, Eddie Howe doesn't want to do that. But, Tina, we're going to say something about that?
No, I
No?
can't even remember what your original question was, Tim. Sorry.
I thought you were going to say something about Vault, but no, that's fine.
No, I
You-
mean, I
you-
agree with you that it
Tina,
should have been.
You're saying that you like me. You think, well, he'll come good next season.
I think he'll be fantastic next season. I think he's a really good player.
where would you play him, and why do you think he'll be fantastic next season?
I would play him up front as a striker. And the reason I think he'll be fantastic next season is because I've watched him play football before he came to us, and he's actually a really decent player. I think he needs to get a little bit more strength about him, and I think he needs to adapt to the Premier League. But he's got a little bit of flair about him. He needs to work on his eye for goal if he is going to be an out-and-out striker. If not, then the number 10, I would accept him in that. I know there are people who say, no, he's a number 9, he's got to play as a number 9. But I would accept him as a number 10 if we're going to play with a formation that suits him. So my answer to Walter Mora's problem, and it kind of answers all of our problems. So we've said that Eddie Howe won't play with a number 6. We've also said that Eddie Howe won't play with a number 10. So the answer to both these problems, and getting Walter Mora and players around him, is to play the 3-4-3. With your wing backs pushed forward a little bit. Instead of having a number 6, you've got 3 centre backs, so you don't get caught out when your 2 centre midfielders push forward, and you can pull Alanga and Gordon, or Alanga and Barnes, in to a narrower position to then support Walter Mara. Steely's laughing at the fact that I've said that he's got flair, which he clearly has, but let's not forget Steely did just put in the comments a few minutes ago that none of our wingers can shoot. And I would like to remind you that one of our wingers is Harvey Barnes. So let's be honest, I'm not sure that Steely's opinion is going to rock any boats with me. But Walter Mara is he's a deeper lying centre forward. People compare him to a Berbatov or a Harry Kane or that ilk of player. Somebody who a Bergkamp. He's gonna have a bit of flair. He's gonna give you that little bit of a magic ball, like the ball he put through for Murphy, or his little back heel that he did for Gordon against, I want to say Marseille, but it might have been the European game after Marseille. He's got a nice little touch. He's got a vision for a cheeky little flick, including the goal that he stole from Sandro Tonali. I accidentally flicked it into the corner. The idea of writing him off is absolutely ludicrous to me. And in the Premier League, if he's going to get isolated as a striker by himself, he's not going to do a whole lot because he just doesn't. Who can do that? I mean, you've got, Robbie who can maybe do that, but that's because he's built like an absolute brick. Unless you've got Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank or Les Ferdinand up front these days, you're not having them against 2 Premier League centre-backs. But you give them either an out-and-out striker to work behind, probably not Wissa, because, I think we've all kind of accepted that's not working, or a proper number 10 to work ahead of. And you could even do that with Gordon. You could play Barnes on the left, Alanga on the right. Gordon and Walter Mara could just kind of interchange. There's no reason not to do that. It also causes a little bit of unrest for the defence because who are you marking? Are you following Gordon or now Walter Mara's in front of him? Are you marking Walter Mara? Oh, Anthony Gordon's just running past you. So I think there's definitely very easy solutions to getting the best from Walter Mara, but I think he's going to be one of them players who will just be better in his second season of the Premier League when he's adapted to the team, adapted to the environment, and adapted to the league itself.
Yeah, I agree. Just to say on that as well, Tina, like you could do exactly that, and you could say to Bruno and Tonali, or not Bruno right now, he's injured, but Tonali and Ramsey, look, lads, we're playing a 2. Voldemort is ahead of you. I need you two just to be sitting a bit more. clear structure. Voldemort in the 10. He's got Gordon ahead of him. Like you say, those two interchanging. Then you've got the two wingers on either side. Like, that could be done. I wouldn't. I don't see why you can't really try and implement that. And I appreciate Eddie Howe hasn't got loads of time on the training grounds, with the games we've had this season. But I would still argue that at this level, should he not be able to jig things around that way? It's not as if that formation's a new thing in football. So I think that option is there. And again, it goes back to Eddie Howe wanting that more fluid system. And
I think it
yeah,
goes back to something else you said yesterday, Tim, which is you mentioned that you think a lot of Eddie Howe's decisions in regards to not playing the youth players comes down to fear. And I think there's an element of fear, and I'm not sure why, but it does look as if he's scared to try a couple of these things that we're all screaming out for. And hey, none of us are football managers. We might be wrong, but surely there's no reason to not give it a try.
Yeah, I agree. And just quickly, again, that's why, well, not just that, but why Iriola, I think, could be a good fit, because he plays pressing football, attacking football, but he does play with a number 6. He does play with a number 10. He has all the tweaks that I want to see with our squad. I just think that's one of the reasons why he'd fit like a glove with us, because he would jig things around that way, and I think you get the best out of our players like Voldemort potentially. I know it's not as simple as that, just a magic one, but we could go into more detail on that another time. Any last thoughts on
your
Voldemort?
Iriola agenda is almost as predictable as Bogey's Eddie Out agenda.
I tell you what agenda I have.
I'm happy to have the conversation.
I tell you what agenda I have got now. We've got 150 odd people in the watching we're live, and only 30 odd likes. That's terrible. Come on, guys, whack them like buttons forward.
Shocking,
Yeah,
diabolical.
I'll get some of these comments read out, actually, because there's quite a few coming in. So, got Sharon Richards saying, Big Nick had 2 good games for Germany. He was so intelligent on the ball. Eddie has lost his abilities to what he can do. It's shameful. We've got Pabola saying, yeah, Eddie wouldn't change formation so drastically. Yeah, and again, I think he's very conservative that way. He makes tweaks. He makes a lot of tweaks, but not actual big changes. Some of Eddie's decisions have been awful this season, says Quiddy. Yeah, no, going back to your point when Ricky says Liverpool had Fabinho. Connor says Voldemort, out-and-out striker for Germany.
He wasn't
still bad
the
dad.
other night, though.
But he wasn't.
Still bad dad says, Borky, mate, these questions are not for win to answer. It changes nothing. You really need to speak to Eddie Howe and put your tactics to him. So if you can get Eddie Howe on the blower, Borky, that would help things a lot.
I'll tell you what, I'll put it out there now, Eddie. If you want to come on and do a one-on-one tactical session with me and teach us why you do things, I'll quite happily sit and listen to you, then explain why you're wrong.
There you go. And leave Win alone. Right.
And then Eddie, if you do accept that invitation and you want me to come on and mug Bogey off like I do every other night on this channel, feel free to give me a call and I'll jump in as well.
Well, yeah, I'm free as well, like anytime. I'm right. Steve Waldo says Eddie Howe never takes risks.
Hello, Eddie. Well, the offer's there.
If anyone's got his number, it's Win. Gavin Fuller says, has Volta not got 12 goals and 4 assists? Is that right? All competitions, obviously, but is that right?
All competitions, maybe, yeah.
I mean, it's just not bad. I mean, it's not amazing, but certainly not bad.
That's more than what Isaac got in his first season.
Yeah.
Well,
he's injured a lot,
not a bad player.
And for how many times he's been chucked on the bench? Not even got on the pitch. It's not bad at all.
About the same number of times Isaac was on the bench injured.
Why are we going on about Isaac? Why are you going down that route?
Who's Isaac?
Because I'm just saying that his first season he wasn't knocking doors out the windows either.
I'm saying, what's the point in that though? What's the point in we're talking about Voldemort?
I'm making the analogy between Isaac. Listen, I was absolutely cock-a-hooping with saying Voldemort. I still think Voldemort is a terrific footballer with his feet. He's just not a number 9 in the Premiership.
Yeah, and Marty says Eddie is a good manager but hasn't got a plan B.
There's
We'll move
neither
on.
one. Make plenty of work. That's his. He stated that openly.
Yeah,
He was
I
asked.
do get that. I understand that kind of philosophy. I do, but I do think he just needs to shake things up a bit more than he does.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know. Right, I
He
want
was
to see if
also
this
on
works.
record as saying things that had got stale, and they have become very stale.
Yeah. The Havertz really says that, and then he kind of just reverts back a lot of the time to the same old, same old. And
Tried
look,
and trusted.
like you say, Tina, I want to be humble about these things. I'm not sitting here saying I know more than Eddie Howe, obviously, but like you say, you just want to see those, like you say, when it's with Wissa. I know he's looked terrible when he's came on as a sub, but you know what? Let's just try him in Voldemort. Let's just see, or at least Gordon and Voldemort up front, the two strikers, and see if it pays off that way. But again, he wants the 4-3-3. I want to switch over to something else now. So we'll talk about
Just
the
about
summer.
Elanga, by the way. You're asking where he
Yep.
played for Sweden, and they
Yep.
played a 3-4-2-1 with Elanga on the right of the two behind Gyökeres.
So that goes back to what Christina was saying about that exact formation, and that clearly allows Elanga to be more narrow and be closer to the striker, doesn't it?
Yeah, which is exactly what we're
Interesting.
saying Waldemar needs.
Yeah, interesting.
Clearly works for Elanga as well.
Yeah,
Why not give it a shot?
yeah.
Clearly
We've
works
got-
for other managers as well, doesn't it? They've obviously got that sort of thought in mind.
To be fair to Eddie, he has played wing backs a fair few times, so the option's there, but he just hasn't played it, has he, with Voldemort, I think, up front very often.
But
Yeah, it's an option.
3-4-2-1 is not strictly wing backs. I mean, the two outside midfielders I had there were Goodmanson and Svensson, so they aren't
And Goodmanson
wing
plays as
backs.
a fullback.
General shape.
in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Does Goodmanson not play as a fullback?
Well, I think the point is where they are on the pitch. Generally speaking, you've got them left and right. You've got the three centre backs, haven't you? So it does give that safety net for
Yeah.
the forward wingers to stay further forward more often and become narrow because you've got the wide men overlapping.
Yeah.
So
It's
Yeah.
the same philosophy.
yeah,
I mean, to be fair, we could sit and talk about this all night, but the top and bottom of it is Eddie Howe will play 4-3-3 in the majority of games. If we're coming up against a team that he thinks we need a little bit more defensively, he'll go, whatever they want to call it, 5-4-1, or however you want to put that one, he'll go to that formation. But he doesn't ever play with two players up front. And this is the whole point that I don't understand is we bought two very different strikers. Whatever numbers they are, it doesn't really matter. We bought two very, very different strikers. What was the point in that? What if he's not going to change it up and try to play them together?
He might change it up though.
Well, I think
But he
I
hasn't.
think
He hasn't done it. He hasn't
No,
done
no,
it. He
but
hasn't done it.
The initial plan was to do exactly that. But Wissa got injured, so it was never on the table.
Well, but hang on, it is on the table.
Walter Marder
It
got
is on the
way too
table.
late.
It is on the table because he's got. Them lads have been together fit since December.
Well, define fit. And also by December, he'd then seen Walter Marder.
So he signed Walter Marder blind. He hadn't seen Walter Marder before.
No, he'd seen him in the Prem.
Newcastle.
He'd seen him in the Prem. Struggling.
But he didn't struggle at first. He did not struggle at first. He struggled when Eddie Howe refused to put any players up with him.
He did struggle
Struggled when
at first.
He didn't struggle at first.
He did struggle
scored-
at first. Despite
scored five-
scoring
he
five
scored-
goals from 6 shots, he struggled.
Well, if that's
The- the-
if
the-
you're
the
arguing
goal-
that, then I can't,
The
I can't argue
the
against
headed
that.
goal, the headed goal against Wolves, I think was one of 12 touches that he had that whole game, from memory.
Right, but how many touches did Isak used to have a game? Isak was never in the game much. In fact, if you remember in the cup final, when he scored the goal, one of the things people said was he hasn't had any service, he's had nothing. And then all of a sudden he popped up and scored the goal.
He did pull out to the left a lot, though, Isak, didn't he? And can get involved and make runs down the left. Create a lot of chances.
And that's the other
from
thing,
that.
far more mobile than
Yeah, he could run him behind as well and get those passes in behind and get under there as well.
But hang on, you're talking about touches in a game. Isak was never the most prolific toucher of the ball in a game. You know, his whole thing was that he could be out the game. Even the likes of when Shearer played for our top class strikers, everybody will say, it'll go looking back in history with strikers that don't get into the game. You've never seen them. Then all of a sudden all of a sudden pop up with a goal.
Strong disagree. How many corners into our like against us did Alan Shearer personally head clear? How many balls that we hooped up front did Alan Shearer personally win and flick onto one of our players? To say Alan Shearer wasn't involved in much of the game is a ludicrous. I get your point. I do get your point with a lot of strikers, but to put Alan Shearer in there as the name you picked is a ludicrous statement.
But the work
He was one of the best crossers that we. The one thing I had against Shearer was when he was young.
He was when he was young, but when he got older, he wasn't the player that people remember when he was younger.
Because he had the knees of a 16-year-old.
But he didn't get
during his time at Newcastle, Alexander Isak averaged approximately 22 touches per game, peaking in the 24-25 season when he averaged 36.3 touches.
Right, and how many has Voldemort averaged?
12.
A game this season, or in one game?
Well, it's the 12-6.
Well, in one game.
From,
so you
wait a minute, I'll get it.
Apples. I think you're going to be disappointed here, Win, because he's played in midfield a few games, so he's going to have more touches then.
I think what I don't get about this Waldemar thing is that if you're going to play him in midfield, why not just play him as a number 10? Like I don't see the point. He doesn't really offer anything defensively. Like he's good at getting involved in your more central midfield work, I guess you could say, because he's got a good touch. But you know, he's a forward player. He's not someone that you want going in and putting a tackle in, because he doesn't really know how to do that without possibly either giving away a foul or just letting the ball go past him. So so you're playing with another striker anyway. Just play Waldemar as a 10. Have your two centre midfielders cover each other like they're going to have to do anyway, because Waldemar not a centre midfielder.
Well, when we have a conversation with Eddie Howe, this is what we need to explain to him. You're quite right. I think everybody can see it, apart from the manager.
Oh, when Christina makes a point, everybody can see it. Well, thank you for the support, Boki.
Can I just quickly say to the chat, I'm not slagging Alan Shearer off whatsoever. I'm just saying that strikers naturally don't have many touches of a ball. That's not part of their game.
I've heard Boki hates Shearer like chat. That's what I heard. He messaged
I'm not the greatest fan of Shearer, to be honest, as a person.
So you're quite right. I'm not saying I'm disappointed, but you're quite right that 25-26, Waldemar has averaged 32 touches per 90 minutes.
So how many did Isak have?
He was 35 or something last season, wasn't he?
No, I think you said, was it 20 odd?
Yeah, he had one season when he was
36.8 per 90 and 24-25.
So it shows that he does get involved in the game.
They're both exactly the same in regards to touches.
Except, as you've said, Waldemar is obviously going to get more because he's in midfield, which was the object of putting him into midfield, to get the ball to him, to get him involved.
Oh, Win. You know, but if
I'm talking about when he was playing up top, when he scored against Wolves, in that run of games that you're talking about, when he scored 6 goals, he wasn't touching the ball at all. He wasn't getting involved.
No, he wasn't getting shots. He wasn't getting shots. He was touching the ball. It's just, unfortunately, we don't play a style that where we're getting players close to him to be able to bounce off those balls.
Because he doesn't facilitate that style.
He does. He
doesn't move.
Tim just talked about the ball that he played for Murphy. You know,
as I said about Longstaff, every player is going to have one.
He does play brilliant.
Alanga, talking about. Even Alanga is going to have one brilliant game.
I'm not having this. Voldemar, his greatest skill is he's a good footballer. He's good with his feet. Even though he's a tall lad.
That's his biggest asset.
What do you need if you're good with your feet? You need to have people around you.
You
So,
need a
for
Murphy.
example, for example, if he's been compared to Peter Beardsley, yeah,
Correct.
Peter
I
Peter
did it.
Beardsley Peter Beardsley wouldn't
everybody
have stood
laugh.
up. Hang on, let us finish. Peter Beardsley wouldn't have been played up front in this sort of formation and expected to hold the ball up and then pass it to a player. Peter Beardsley's biggest skill was he could pass the ball when people were around him, and that's exactly the same as Voldemort. He needs people around him to play these little delicate balls onto, or to play these balls into, and that's why he's different in international football than he is at Premier League football, is because they'll play to his strengths and get people around him. We don't. We just leave him 30 yards for up front by himself, and he just looks around and thinks, well, what do you actually want us to do here? So that's a really
if
good analogy. Compare him to Peter Beardsley. If you put Peter Beardsley up there in this team, he'd struggle as well.
If Voldemort's getting 35 touches per game, though, I mean, is he really being isolated out of the game? Is it not more our expectations, or for him to do more than he actually manages to do, which again would just be down to him not having fully adapted to the league? I mean, I don't think he's quite as isolated looking at his average touches as I mean, there's certainly some games where he has been, but I don't think he gets himself as isolated. I think the one criticism of him up front is that he drops deep a little bit too much rather than being in the box when we've got Murphy hoofing balls in there. But
I think this is part of the problem when we bring these stats. When Wynn brings these stats into it, it confuses the matter. Because if you watch it with your eyes, if you watch it with your eyes, you can see Voldemort has been isolated up front. But if you're talking about touches, he can get a touch still up front. But if there's nobody there to take the ball, it's a pointless touch. So yes, he's getting the touch and he's getting the mark for, yes, he touched the ball there, but he can't actually do anything with it because there's nobody around him to help.
Yeah, I do think there's an element where he needs to adapt to the Premier League with regards to having more strength up front and holding the ball. I think he has been knocked off the ball quite a few times, but yeah.
I was doing the Eric Cartman beefcake. I can't do it because my voice doesn't go as low enough to do it. So as soon as I did it, I was like, no, that hasn't sounded good, Christina. You should have kept that one in drafts.
It's out now. But yeah, I think, but at the same time, he has done really well, and he has been isolated. I think it's really a mixed bag, in my opinion, with Voldemort. I think there has been too much of a black and white. You know, he's completely this in this camp, or he's completely that in that camp. I think there is an element of truth to a lot of things being said. But yeah, I think second season, like a lot of signings from abroad, he should be better in the league after that season of adapting to the rigours of the Premier League. So again, though, like you said, Bog, it all comes back to also finding the right system for him. The question is, will Eddie Howe do that? I'll move on, right, because we spent a lot of time on
25 goals and 18 assists next season, I guarantee it.
Yep, hopefully. We'll see if this works, because I want to talk about summer signings. And I think Michael mentioned about Spurs, didn't he, a few nights ago, about would you take anyone from Spurs? Did he talk about any other teams? Or not? Because
No, I don't think so.
we've got Forest, we've got West Ham, and we've got Leeds. So I want to see if this works. Okay, bear with us. Right, can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is Forest squad. So let's, obviously 2 out of these 3 teams are going to go down. The question is, would you take any of these players? I've got a few in mind, actually, but these are the goalkeepers. We'll start with Forest first. Then I'll scroll down. But anybody off the top of your head straight away when you're looking at this that you'd take? Obviously, Matt Sells is there, isn't he?
No.
Let's bring Matt Sells back. And John Victor and Angus Gunn. Let's just buy all the goalkeepers because we love doing that.
Wouldn't be surprised.
There's nobody there I would buy from goalkeeper-wise.
No? Okay. So you go down to outfield players. You've got defenders there on the left and midfielders on the right. Anybody stick out for you?
Elliot Anderson. I'd have
Anyone else?
Anderson back in a heartbeat.
I would have
Milinkovic and Murillo are both.
I would have Elliot Anderson back in a heartbeat, but I wouldn't pay the money that they're going to be asking for him, or the money that's he's going to get offered. I know he's a local lad and everybody loves him, and he's the one that got away. But the money that you'd be paying for him, it would be ridiculous. You'd have to look to other options, and could you get better value for money from other options? Yes, you could.
Could you get a cut price, Borky, if they went down?
No, because there'll be other Premier League teams after him.
Yeah, but we've got the fact that we're his home team. He might
doesn't
be
make
willing
it-
to accept
Hang on,
slightly less wages for us.
I don't think we can exactly use that one when we shipped him off so quickly. We can't now turn around and
I mean, we
say,
didn't
"Oh,
have a
look at where
choice.
your home team." Well, we did. We could have got rid of Gordon.
I mean, we could
think
have,
he would
but he was
understand.
in our first team, wasn't he? So
Hang on, you can't expect the lad to have complete loyalty to Newcastle when he was shipped out by Newcastle in the first place.
and
You know,
Shearer did.
let's be honest. Shearer wasn't shipped out by Newcastle. He never signed up for.
Yeah, but he never got given his chance at Newcastle. He ended up going to the
did get
youth ranks
given
at
it.
Southampton, didn't he?
No, he did get given a chance. He was was in with the youth team at Newcastle, but he decided to sign professional forms with Southampton.
Okay, did he decide that, or
Yeah, he decided that. But him and his parents, I'm guessing.
okay? I'll ask him when we get him on the show.
No, in every interview he ever does, he said it was his decision.
Oh, he's a turncoat.
What about Morgan Gibbs White?
That's not because he was offered terms at Newcastle. He was never offered terms.
No, I wasn't being serious for that. I was doing that.
Famously,
the
Newcastle played him in goal in one game.
I had heard that actually. I was going to say that, but I wasn't sure if it was like an ex-lad winding me up about that. So I was like, I better not say that. It's going to be that thing again where I thought red cars were faster because the paint's more aerodynamic. But, there's no way I've just said that out loud on radio. Let's move on quickly back to this list of players.
To be honest, looking at Forest's squad, there's nobody from there that I'd particularly want to take. And again, I think would be overpaying for Premier League players again. I think any of these players are going to come in on already quite big contracts and want to be paid the same.
I would definitely have a look at Aina. I think he's a tremendous fullback.
You know who I think's good? Neco Williams as a
I was
fullback.
about to talk about Neco.
Yeah, I think it's weird because he's like Livramento in a sense that he's right-footed, but he actually could be better at left back. But he can play right back, obviously, and I think he could be one to look at potentially. Whenever I've seen him anyway, he does look like a solid player with kind of a good forward-thinking mindset and good technique on the ball. He put in a lovely cross for one of their goals against Spurs
A bit of a
last week.
Davide Santon.
Exactly. That's a good shout.
What I would say is, by virtue of the fact that we've got Ross Wilson, director of football, ex-Forest, I don't know what the atmosphere was like when he left Forest. I don't know whether it was amicable or whatever. But he'll certainly have the lowdown on all of those players and their attitudes and everything else to go with it from his time there. So we should be at least better prepared than most clubs to take advantage of anything that may occur or may not.
Yeah, I agree. And like I say, I think if we lose Tino and we need a right back, maybe Williams, because again, you're getting the benefit of somebody who can play left back as well, just like we've got with Tino right now.
I would take Williams.
Yeah. McAtee has flopped, it seems anyway, but I don't know how much he's played, who went there from Man City. And I was thinking in the summer he could have been somebody who could have maybe came to us and played on that right side as a inside forward. But would you think about him, or have you seen much of him at Forest this season, James McAtee?
I had forgotten he'd signed for them, to be completely honest with you. And until you've just pointed him out, I hadn't even noticed his name on the list. So, he's not... But then again, I haven't been paying particular attention to Forest this season, so I wouldn't want to do him... How old is he now?
He'd be about 20 or something, I think.
It tells you at the
21.
side if you look.
Yeah, if you scroll along a little bit, it should tell us.
23.
But are the majority of these players not just seen as failures, or the Forest are going down, or potentially going down? really players that we want to be looking at.
Well, I mean, you say that, but I mean, when we get on to Tottenham, I'm sure there's about 6 or 7 players that we're going to say we would take from them. I know I've got a few players already in mind if he's going to bring Tottenham up at all, that, you know, they would be classed as failures. And there was players in the Newcastle side that got relegated the first time who, if I was offered them at the age that they were when we got relegated, I'd absolutely take them back.
Yeah, you look at Wijnaldum, who went to Liverpool and was brilliant for them. I think it's about like picking the gems in amongst a bad bunch. You know, I agree with what you're saying, Borky, and that I think partly the issue with relegated sides is the attitude, and you know, have they displayed the right attitude first and foremost? I think you've got to do your background on that before you look at the ability, because I think with Spurs, what you're saying, Christina, I think with Spurs, there's some players there that I would potentially stay clear of because of what it looks like a poor attitude. So I think that's maybe something to look at. But I'll move on.
He's only started 7 games this season for us.
It's crazy, really. He moved from Man City to get regular football, and that's all he's played. It's unreal. Right, I'll move on to West Ham then. So, can you see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Okay, so goalkeepers. Fabianski, I wouldn't. He's 40 years old. I wouldn't take him.
40-year-old goalkeeper, get him signed. We love him in Newcastle, absolutely. I'll have Ariola as well.
I'll have Wan-Bissaka.
Would you?
And I'll definitely have Bourne.
Bourne's
Yeah, I
too
thought you'd
old
say.
now. But again, Bourne's going to be too much money for what he is. Again, I wouldn't take anybody from this squad. I don't think they're good enough, and I think we can get better abroad.
Kyle Walker-Peters was always a player that a lot of people looked at, and again can play left back and right back. He's 28 now, as it says then. But like you say, Boggy, what's he actually did at West Ham for them to be, you know, bottom 3? He's always looked good when I've seen him, but when I say good, I mean sort of competent, really. He looked better at Southampton when I seen him, but yeah, maybe he's just drifted away. But when you're saying you would take Aaron Wan-Bissaka, would that be as a starter or squad player? What would you have in mind?
Well, sorry, were we working on the assumption that we're going to lose Livramento?
Well, yeah, I think that's my thinking, you know.
Well, there you go.
So you'd start Wan-Bissaka, yeah?
Yeah. I would have no worries at all about starting Wan-Bissaka.
So what's he done at West Ham that makes you think he'd be good for Newcastle win? I think he's had a shocking season.
He hasn't had a shocking season personally. West Ham have had a shocking season.
But he hasn't been great. Have you watched any of the West Ham games?
Well, it's as many as any of the other Premiership teams.
He gets beat on the air turnover. He gets beat over the top, and he's not great at covering infield. I think he'd be a poor signing forward, to be perfectly honest.
He was man of the match against us.
Well, that doesn't take much, does it? What about other teams?
He's got experience, but I mean, he's not getting any younger as well, is he? So
Yeah. I don't think he's fulfilled his potential. Like he seemed to show at Palace when he first came through, and then obviously went to Man United.
That's my point. Yeah, I think that's where to come from. Still.
Yeah, it was chaos at Man United, really.
I understand why we're doing this, and we're Tottenham. Obviously, there will be more of a discussion, but realistically, should we be looking to sign players that are being relegated this season? Should that be the focus of Newcastle United?
again,
Tottenham Hotspur have had a nightmare of a season, right? And yes, they've got good players because they're a big team. So there are potentially players there that you could get in. But I think looking at Nottingham Forest and sorry, who we're looking at now?
West Ham.
West Ham. It just seems, you know,
Callum Wilson's got a goal in him.
We're looking to buy players that have failed this season, and really that aren't of a level that we want now. We don't want, because I mean, West Ham are a middle of the Premier League type of team, aren't they? If they stay up, their expectations would always be middle of the table. Nottingham Forest are bottom half, middle of the table at best. So if their players were any good, they'd already be in a bigger team. There's a reason why they play for the teams that they do, and some of them will look good. Look at when we've
Did you
been
see
poor in the
Nottingham
past.
Forest last season?
Look at them when we've had players in the past that have been, sort of they've stood out, but it's because they're standing out in a bad bunch. You don't want
So you
lower
don't
league
think Elliot
team
Anderson
players,
will
Premier
do
League
well at
players.
Manchester United?
But I don't know if he's going to Manchester United, but
Well,
Elliot
if for
Anderson,
example, he went there, do you not think Elliot Anderson's a player?
I don't think Elliot Anderson is everything people are building him up to be. I know he's got an England international cap now and everything, and I know he's done really well in regards to, he's progressed his career, and he is a middle to bottom of the league Premier League player. But I don't think he's a top class midfielder. I think we'll look at Elliot Anderson through rose tinted glasses because we're Newcastle United, and
not
he's a
that clear.
Newcastle player from the Newcastle area. But he's not world class. He's probably, as I say, not even top of the Premier League class. He's
You just don't
more
like players
middle,
from Newcastle, you.
middle,
Alan
middle,
Shearer was overrated.
middle to bottom of the middle to the bottom of the table. Well, no,
Okay.
Shearer was.
So just
Shearer
out
was.
of interest, Bogey, I've just got
Shearer
to
was a world class player.
Just out of interest, you say what are we doing buying players from teams that have been relegated? So the last team that we got relegated, would you, for example, have had a 27-year-old Tim Krul? Would you have had
Tim Krul? I never thought was a great keeper, but no, I probably wouldn't.
Right, okay. Would you have had a 24-year-old Georgino Wijnaldum?
Yes.
Would you have had a 25-year-old Moussa Sissoko?
No.
Well, Spurs paid 25 million for him, so they fancied him.
I know how much you paid for him. What did he do for them?
Would you have had a 23-year-old John Joe Shelby?
John Joe Shelby, did he not stay with her?
Yeah, but this was our squad that got relegated. And you're saying we shouldn't be buying players from relegated.
But hang on. I tell you what. Would John Joe Shelby get in our team now? Let's flip this.
Not now,
he's
because he's 45.
At his prime, would he get into our team now?
It'd certainly be better off the bench than a lot of what we've had.
But no. Would he get into our team now?
If you're saying
when you're running through these players, let's not ask if I would sign them. Let's say would they get in with team? I would say Will would. He was obviously a great player. I wouldn't say Krul particularly would. He probably might because would have three middle of the road goalkeepers then.
What about Ivan Toney? What about Alexander Mitrovic? What about Ayuso Perez?
Mitrovic would get in the team.
Would they get in the team if the players were bought? Are they the same price as the players we bought? It's a difficult one because you're using our poor recruitment to paint out a picture.
No, I'm simply saying I'm arguing against your statement that should we really be buying squad players who've been relegated?
But that was I think that was quite a unique. Again, Tottenham. When we go on to Tottenham, as I said at the start of this, Tottenham, there are players there that are good players. It's that they're having an absolute nightmare of a season, and that was exactly the same as us that season. We had good players that season. These teams of Newcastle United wouldn't have been expected to go down at the start of that season, would they? And Tottenham wouldn't be expected to go down this season. Nottingham Forest and West Ham are one of the teams that can sort of expect potential relegation. So there's a difference in that we had a good team back then that got relegated. These haven't got good teams. They've got
well, strangely, I'm looking at that team now, and even though there are the odd player that I've just handed out to you, when I'm looking at that full squad now, I'm thinking, my God, is it any wonder we got relegated? Because the squad.
Are you kidding with the players that we've got?
But the point I'm making, apart from the handful of, decent players, the rest of the squad, Haidara, Janmat, Stephen Taylor, I mean, we
DLO
had
was an all right.
Colaccini. We had
DLO was an
Colaccini,
all
but
right team.
he was 33. We had Carl Darlow and Tim Krul, Rob Elliott, Freddie Woodman.
So I'm guessing Lascelles was there as well. Who would have been more?
Lascelles was
Yeah,
there
young
as well.
Lascelles, yeah.
Yeah. So we did have a good team. You would not have went into
Vernon
that
and
season.
Nita,
Hang on,
Sean de Jong.
win. You would not have went into that season expecting us to be relegated. You'd expect we to be middle to top half of the league.
I think what killed us was the strikers up front, unproven
Vigi
Mitrovic,
Roma.
Cisse, kind of past it.
Vigi Mana.
Should we move on from Win here because he's just rattling names off now?
Well, yeah, I think to your
I'm just
point,
saying
Borky,
that was our relegation squad in 2016.
yeah. Well, I think it is fascinating when you look at both our relegation squads. It's something we could do maybe at some point next time, but because Nicky Butt was speaking about that recently, about his time when we got relegated, and talking about the comparisons with Spurs this year with Newcastle and having good enough players on paper, but the chaos at the club and the players themselves underperforming, meaning that they get relegated. So it'll be interesting one to look at. But just with the general point, I think, certainly I'd be casting my net far and wide. And the go-to when you're buying players is not teams who have got relegated. It's just a case of are there any gems out there, because you've got to look everywhere. So,
You know what?
for example,
Do you know where I would look for this, Tim? Not the
Go
first
on.
team as, but look at their youth squads
yeah,
and see if we can pluck some. Because West Ham will have a good youth. They've always had a good youth system at West Ham. If we can go in there and pluck a couple of players out of there because they're desperate for money, because they're being relegated, that's probably what the best bet to go down with these types of teams. So look at it from not necessarily first teamers, but we'll all know our under 21s isn't up to scratch. Could we go in there and buy a couple of players from them that would be up to scratch, and that potentially could cover in the league and in cup competitions when we need them?
yeah.
Maybe
It's like,
not look at the first team. Look at the back, as I say, their youth teams.
yeah, it's like you want to be a vulture, don't you? It's ruthless, but financially, like you say, they are going to be hamstrung. What I would say though is, in terms of first team, I think Somerville is a decent player, and he's only 24 years old. He's been by far and away their best player when I've seen them. Obviously, Bournes is a good player, but he's 29. Maybe Somerville. I mean, certainly Somerville has looked a lot better than Langer when you compare those two. But I'll move on to Leeds. I mean, there's not really many that comes to mind for me with Leeds. Obviously, to be fair, you got Longstaff there, like
I was about to say Longstaff.
Buy him
DCL.
back and give them a profit, eh?
yeah.
That probably not do that though. Let's have a look. Oh, Carl Darlow's there. Let's bring back Carl Darlow for his swan
Yeah.
song.
He was in our
yeah.
relegation squad.
Yeah.
Goodmanson, I'm kind of into Goodmanson, I'm not going to lie. I don't hate him as a player.
You know who caused us loads of problems? Aronson at St James's.
That's a shout. That is a shout. He looked like a world beater against us. So
Not
yeah.
that I'm saying he is a world beater, but yeah, in that game we couldn't handle him.
No, but I would definitely say that I would consider. There's a couple of players for Leeds who I would consider. As I said, Goodmanson and Aronson would be probably top of the list. I'm just having a little look through the rest of their players now.
If
Bogan's
buying
got a
Leeds,
game in him.
if buying any Leeds players is the answer, I'd hate to know what the question is, where we're going this summer. You know, if we're looking at any of those players this summer, then we are on a downward spiral.
You reckon?
Mm-hmm.
Even Noto? Like, I mean, he
Even any of them?
looks like a decent player. So
But we're not looking for decent players now. We're not looking for. I think this is part of the problem, because as Newcastle, we have been one of these teams that's looked to just get players that can keep you in the Premier League and can, sort of do a job for you. We're not looking for that now. We're looking for the more elite player, the more better player that can actually move you on as a club.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
None of this Leeds squad are going to move you on as a squad. None of them players will get in our team.
No, not at all. And certainly, like I say, I'd be
DCL?
casting my net far and wide. But I think there's going to be such a potential turnover at Newcastle. We're going to be signing like, from the sounds of it, like 6 to 8 players maybe. So not all of those players are going to be, big names for the first team. But yeah, it's just something to look at. But I'll move it to Spurs. So here's Tottenham.
I'll tell you right now, Xavi Simons, before it even comes up on the screen.
Yeah. Got a super
Aaron
chat
said
there.
Also with a super
Was
chat.
definitely inferior, said Wazza.
I'm shocked
Yeah,
Chris will have
was.
something to say that in a little while.
Yeah.
Let's have a little look at this team. I mean, you've got to say that there are players in this Tottenham team that I would take. Probably none of
What do
their
you think?
goalkeepers.
Vicario, what do you think
I
of
would
him?
certainly have Van der Ven.
Yeah.
Definitely not Vicario.
Yeah, I think he's
Definitely not
terrible.
Kinski. Let's not bring in players who have got less confidence than, and
Pope.
something that's not confident. I couldn't have that bit off more than I could chew that sentence, lads. I apologise. But yeah, let's not bring in any of their goalkeepers. But their outfield players, I mean, let's have a look at this.
Again, you've got Kudus there, who
take
I
Xavi
thought
Simons.
was absolute quality at West Ham. I was
Yeah.
disappointed we didn't go for him. Especially, to be fair, that was at the time that Gordon was mooted to be on his bike. And I thought, you've got your ideal replacement there.
Van der Ven's only 24, so I honestly thought he was at least 26. Yeah, I'd take Van der Ven. And Xavi Simons. I'd leave the rest of their team, but I'd take those two.
And Simmons,
one thing I would
Simmons
say-
is not going to stay there. He's got no loyalty at all to Spurs. If they
Simmons-
go down.
I wanted Simmons back in, before Tottenham signed. I was devastated when
years ago,
Spurs
I was
signed
talking
him.
about him.
Like,
I'm not
he
taking the
looked
credit for it. It was Antonio Mango who alerted me to him, and when I checked up on him and followed him for a year after that, unbelievable.
Yeah, he's a fantastic player. I'd probably take Papa Sarr as well.
But is he an Eddie player? He's certainly the maverick who the Titanic twins are looking for.
Simmons behind Waldemara. Oh, please plug that into my veins.
Lads, I think what you need to sorry, lads and lads, I think what we need to look at it here is, well, how the hell's this team in this so much trouble?
I know, right?
You know, they've got some
What's going
really
on?
good players. They've got some really good players there. I mean, there wouldn't be a great deal that I'd want to sign from them, just simply down to age.
Again,
But-
Jed Spence. I'd have Jed Spence tomorrow.
But in regards
Well, he's a
to
prime
how are they
example,
in
Win.
it- how much?
Yeah,
how are they in
he's a
this
prime
much trouble?
example. I think it's attitude, Borky, and I think Jed Spence, like you say, Win, you'd have him. But, there's times where I look at him, I wonder about his appetite. And he was one of the players who blanked Thomas Frank walking off the pitch. And I just, I'm not too sure about
I think
his
if I may
application.
borrow words from William Shakespeare, who said it best in regards to Spence, he's a proper wronging him who. I think that was William Shakespeare who said that.
Probably is.
I
Probably.
think probably not, but never mind.
Do you not reckon?
No.
I think it was.
A wronging.
Proper wronging who, like?
We'll go down to strikers.
Would we still take Conor Gallagher?
I wouldn't.
I would
No,
certainly
definitely
take
not.
Dominic Solanke.
But
All
then
day
again,
long. If there's any thought at all about Voldemort going, Solanke will do it for me.
The problem with Tottenham is, I'm guessing they have put release clauses, not release clauses, salary clauses in players' contracts where if they go down. So a lot of Tottenham could be in serious trouble if they do, because a lot of these players, I don't think there's many teams who go in and pay them the same wages that they're on at Tottenham.
Mm.
And if there's no World Cup next year, some of them might just think, hang on, I'll just sit around here and I get me massive wage. And still, because if they go anywhere else, I think some of these players, most of these players, would be expected to take a pay cut. You're signing a player from a relegation squad. You're not going to pay them the massive bucks that you would players from the top of the league. So, sorry, I know this is slightly off topic, but Tottenham are in absolutely massive issues this year if they go down.
Yeah.
Was I agreeing with you there, Gina, saying
Yeah. I mean,
Gabby Simmons and Walter Mara, match made in heaven?
the
Cheers,
thought of
Mother.
that gives me the warm fuzzies that matter me.
I can't believe that Kolo Muani is 27 years old. I thought he was like 21 or something. On loan from PSG, isn't he?
Yeah. Well,
God.
Again with Tottenham though, what Wilson should have his scouting team doing now is looking at their youth team just in case they do go down, and again be ready to hammer that. Don't go for the first team players, go for the players from behind the scenes. Tottenham are going to be in deep doo-doo financially wise if they go down. That new stadium and, obviously we know how fickle fans from the south are. They certainly won't get a full stadium if they go down like Newcastle would. So, they're going to be in deep trouble if they go down.
But Borky, you were saying there, don't look at the first team, look at that squad. You said the same with West Ham. Both you and I have said we want to be looking to improve the first team. Our first team.
Yeah, 100%.
So why would you be wasting time and money looking at their reserve squad to bolster our under 21s?
Because you and Gary have sat here all season and argued with us that our under 21s isn't up to scratch. It hasn't got the right. We haven't had players that were good enough in it. It's never been developed. This would be a massive chance to actually do that. So you can't. The reason we would do it is because our under 21s aren't going to be getting through to first team level in the next few years. Theirs will. If we can take a few players from there on the cheap, and then even if they never play for Newcastle, we'll become this football factory that we have to be. And I know you hate that, and I hate that as well. We both dislike it, but you go in there, if you can buy a few of their players on the cheap, or that are young, they might, as I say, they might never ever play for it, but if you add 10, 20 million pounds to their value, that just makes the next few years that you've got players coming through that are worth money, that keeps you right on all the financial fair play and all that rubbish.
Both those
I just
teams
think
potentially
to get these players, you're going to have to pay 10, 20 million.
But you're not, because if they go down, they're going to be absolutely desperate for cash. They're going to, you could go in. West Ham especially, who've got a massive youth system there. If you could go in and do a bulk deal for like 2, 3, 4 players, you could get them on the cheap, bring them through, and potentially they could be the bench players. They could be the bench players that we need, moving forward.
I think we spend whatever we've got on first team ready, mate.
No, you've got to do that. Good evening, Michael. I think you've took over from our other host.
Whoa, what on earth happened there?
Well, what can I say? It's just a bit of magic, isn't it?
It's all about the magic of No, it's all about the magic of TV, Win. They come in on the same sign-on, so they can't be on together.
Ah, right.
I did leave it as long as I could.
Good man. Good evening. Well, there you go. Might as well.
What's broken my mind is they're both wearing the same colour top.
Can we just say thank you very much to Tim tonight as well for hosting?
Well
absolutely
done, Tim,
superstar.
yes.
Tim was absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely brilliant. And Ian's in as well. Hello, Ian. How are you doing?
Hey.
Ooh, hello there, Michael. I'm good. I put the other lumberjack shirt on tonight for Wazza, I think it was, who like singing the Monty Python. So,
Well, he's got a chance to do it all over again.
More up his street. Absolutely.
Lovely stuff. Well, I
Spooky about raiding the young lads out of the relegated teams. I think that's a great move. I'm not sure there's many that we could get at a decent price in the first team ready, because everyone else will be thinking the same thing, won't they?
There will be,
good prices for them, but the young ones.
I think we need to improve the first team squad, and if you do that, as both Borky and I have said, you then knock the current first teamers onto the bench, so you don't need under 21s to come in and do it. Tina, why do you always yawn when Bokey's talking?
Can I answer that before we switch over, actually? Because I don't yawn when Bogey speaks. I yawn because I've been up since 6:30 and I've been at work all day and I haven't eaten yet. So that's why I yawn. It is absolutely nothing. I'm not just like having a go at Bogey. It's not when he speaks. Absolutely not. It is literally just because I work mad long hours and then I come home and I do YouTube every night. So it's like I'm kind of like a Newcastle player. I suffer from exhaustion from time to time.
I do yawn when Tina talks, and it's because I'm bored with her. That's the.
I turn that back. I yawn when Bobby speaks because he's boring and he talks garbage. What my dinner's there like? I'm devastated.
And on that note...
On that note...
NUFC Early Night News with Gary the Geordie Yum Yum, Andrew Bokey, Christina Cage, and Derek the Mighty Wind. Weekdays from 8 p.m. UK, 2 p.m. USA. NUFC Talk.
Alright, welcome back to the late night show. I do apologise for taking the control out of the hands of the early night team and causing a little bit of chaos, but if you know me, that's probably the only thing I do well. So, we're going to kick off your late night show with me, the MAG, Michael Gramslow, the Mighty Win, Ian Mackay, and Peter, and I believe DXK is going to be joining us a little later on as well. First things first, Win, they're doing double duty, mate. How's it going?
Going good. Finally lost the Mackham Blues, I think, out the system. And we are being salved with international football.
Yeah, always one that we enjoy, particularly when England end up on the losing end to Japan, of all teams. But they've done the double over the neighbours, England and Scotland, this week, haven't we? And, well... Personally, I cannot wait for it to be over, but then we got the FA Cup, which is almost as bad, so probably time to go see one of the non-league sides and see how they're doing. Ian, buddy, how's it going? I feel like I've hardly seen you this week.
The weekend, Michael. I know. We've been separated, Michael. They're getting in between our bromance. It's not right. Non-league. Talk about non-league teams worth going to
bromance
see. Gateshead. Gateshead are coming from nowhere. They were bottom of the league the last time I looked, about a month ago. But they've put about 4 or 5 wins together and are out of the bottom 4 in the National League. So, keep going, Gateshead. We need a National League team.
Heed Army!
Up the heed, indeed. Peter, what about you, mate? How's it going?
Doing okay, mate. Yeah, not too bad. Like you say about International Week, I can't say I've been watching any international games, to be fair, but sometimes, you know what, it's a break from the Premier League and the way it was going with Newcastle. You know what, a bit of a detox isn't always a bad thing, just to reset and get away from the chaos and have a bit of a break and come back fully recharged. So, yeah, I'm not a fan of internationals, but, at times you got to kind of just switch off from it, I think, as well, from, like I say, the drama that comes with Newcastle United. So
yeah, it's a big one, isn't it? The fact of you coming off that defeat. Realistically, I didn't want to see Newcastle play for at least a couple of months afterwards. It's been just over a week and I can't wait to have it back. And I didn't think I'd be saying this last Sunday, but it's going to be a big one tonight because we're going to be talking about a few things. Newcastle's financial situation, out of the words coming out from Kieran Maguire earlier, and the question of whether getting Europe might actually hurt us. Sandro Tonali potentially going to Real Madrid, Manchester United, Manchester City and Juventus. His miles are going to stack up next season.
And Arsenal.
Oh, and Arsenal. Couldn't forget Arsenal. They're splitting them all 5 ways. It's going to be a long season for Sandro. Our midfield situation in light of that. And I've tried to find some of the more realistic rumours of this April Fool's Day because, well, and hopefully I don't end up looking the fool at the end of the episode. But I'll be honest with you, gents, this next 6 months feel like they're going to be a massive turning point period for this club because there's a lot going on and everyone seems to want a piece of our players. Be sure to get yourselves in there in the chat. I want your opinions all night long as well. Win, if you wouldn't mind keeping an eye on that. Just for some reason, it's not coming up on my screen. I think when I've kicked Tim out, there's been a bit of an issue. But I'll try and sort that out in the next 10. But on our side, we're going to start with the financial side, because I mentioned earlier, a report earlier by football finance journalist Kieran Maguire. Like him or hate him, he seems to be popping up everywhere these days. And he's saying that Newcastle United might actually be better off not qualifying for the Conference League because UEFA allows the 70%, Premier League allows the 85% as the new squad cost ratio whole ordeal. And obviously the revenue you get from the Conference League is minimal. So Newcastle could actually be restricted by qualifying, and finishing higher could actually make us weaker next season. Win, I'm going to start with you. Would you take no Europe next season if it somehow meant we'd get more spending power for the individual summer?
No, I think for what that amounts to, I mean, we had, I forget who it was in the chat, it might have been someone on the panel saying that it costs more to do the travelling in Europe than you make from the competition, which was, patent nonsense. And it keeps the brand, the image, even if it's in the Conference League, where presumably we would hope to go on right through to the final stages. It's still Newcastle United in the eyes of Prime and whoever else gets the Paramount, whoever gets the Netflix are getting involved now. So it gets the brand name out there.
Yeah.
So not for me. And also, it puts forward the conundrum that we've been talking about permanently in terms of 2 games a week. We have to get used to playing those European games in collaboration with the Premier League.
Yeah, it's a great point.
So we all very well having a fantastic Premier League season next season, which you hear bandied all the time. They haven't got Europe, so they'll go, they'll do better. And I don't want to be in that situation. I want to be in Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. Spot on. It's a great point about the 2 games a week, and there's no better took a competition to get used to that on the conference. We've seen the teams, even in the Europa, really, we've seen the teams that Palace and Forest have played, and certainly not at the standard that Newcastle have played, even though, there is a Karabag in there. Ian, what do you reckon on the whole Europe front? Would you take no Europe for more spending power this summer, just given how big it is, or is Europe number one?
I'm without wishing to bore the pants of anybody, I am entirely 100% of the same view as Win. Firstly, we need our brand out there. Winning the Conference League puts us in the Europa League at least the next season. But more importantly, it's getting the muscle memory right and the way of working right to be able to cope with playing whatever it was, 10 or 12 additional games in the midweek, which we need to do. We need to have structure and training regime, etc., in place to be able to do that. And if you suddenly got a year off where you were doing something completely different, it would all be new again the following season, and I think we'd struggle again. So yeah, it might be a really good run because the quality of the opposition is that much less. Could actually win a trophy as well. I'm all for adding trophies.
What that disagrees? He says no. When we build the squad up before we go to Europe.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Because there's 2 different ways we could go, and you could actually see the benefits of both and how both of them could lead to Newcastle doing really well. But Peter, what's your opinion on it, mate?
So okay, you get more money. You get more of a leeway finishing outside Europe in terms of what you spend, but then you're shopping in a market which might not be, the quality of players you're shopping for. Then potentially are not going to be as good as what you could maybe go for if you've got Europe. So it's kind of like, in a way, what's the point? What's the point of having that leeway if you can't then get the players that you actually want to get? And I think if you're in a European competition, ideally Europa League, I think obviously Champions League is gone. I don't know if Win still is clinging on to that, but in my mind, that's gone. I think Europe is the best I'm hoping for. Even that for me is, I don't think we'll get it, but it's technically it's possible. I think you can attract far better players being in Europa League than what you can not being in Europa League. So yeah, for me, I would take the restrictions that come with it over not being in Europe and having a bit more to spend.
Yeah, to be honest, it is an one. I was just looking at the table there. Obviously, Champions League. I mean, there's loads of teams that could get Champions League still, depending on how things go. But just looking at it, seeing us in 12th, seeing Liverpool sat there on 49 points, Chelsea on 48, Newcastle on 42, and Sunderland just above us. It just reminds me constantly that if we just beat the team who were expected to finish bottom at the start of the league, and now they've done a lot better. If we just managed to beat them, we'd be well in the hunt. And that's not even talking about the first game. So, yeah, and we're going to avoid looking at the table. But there is only 6 points there between Newcastle and Chelsea. We do know that we're better as a one game a week type of ordeal. And if you can't attract players when you're in the Champions League, like we did struggle to do against the big names last season, we still attracted some decent names in there. Ramsey, good player. Chow, Champions League semi-finalist coming over from Milan. There is some big names in there, and there still is a bit of pull there from Newcastle, but outside of Europe, yeah, I do agree. It could really weaken us next season not having Europe, and it would go on to have PSR consequences. And it links into the bigger issue. Obviously, we mentioned the stadium deal on yesterday's episode. Newcastle would have posted a 98 million loss. So, when people say, why aren't we spending? It kind of tells you why, and it reinforces that misconception of risk owners gives us spending freedom. Obviously, if Newcastle don't make Europe this season, doesn't look like we're going to be able to spend a lot of money going forward. And before I ask the question there, I'm just going to get into that super chat we've got in. We've got Monkey Spudham coming on with a £5 super chat. We've already got a European fine coming because UEFA aren't counting the stadium sale money. Yes, and to be honest, I think that's one that Newcastle should have seen coming. UEFA didn't count Chelsea's sale of their women's team to themselves. So realistically, they were probably not going to accept that anyway. So it'll be one that I think Newcastle will have expected, and maybe they've just thought the fine is worth it. But
5 million allegedly.
5 million, is that it?
Yeah.
Screw it. Do it again. Do it next time. Do it the time after as well.
Yeah.
But with that, obviously, if Newcastle are in Europe, does mean that 70% squad cost ratio, 5 million's a measly fine. But let's say if that does happen and we do want to avoid a fine, Peter, do you think Newcastle would have to sell a big player this summer, even if they didn't want to?
I think, honestly, in terms of this, the whole financial fair play and the squad cost ratio, I can't say I'm absolutely 100% clued up on all of the finances and all that stuff. But it has been talked about from Hopkinson, hasn't it, in terms of trading? And he was asked the question, to get a marquee signing, well, first of all, are Newcastle capable of doing that? Can they go and do that? And he said yes, but we'd have to trade. So I think, I think it's going to be a season of change. A summer of change, rather. And in a way, I think, like, if you're going to do it, then this is probably a really good time to do that. So, okay, it might be painful. I think we might end up losing, whether you want to call them the crown jewels or what, but players who have got the reputation of being some of our better players, but it's been such a difficult season really overall. I think in terms of getting that consistency, I think it's probably a good time to do that and to trade. I'm not going to be too disheartened because we need a refresh, don't we? It's a rebuild, and you have as the saying goes, you have to create, you have to destroy first sometimes. So I think Tino might go, and I think Tonali is from the rumours and from what's been said is another name I would guess is probably going to be on his way as well. We'll see, but in terms of Tino, honestly, for me, I think we've got to be clever. I would cash in. I'm not saying he's a terrible player. I'm just saying I think he's a bit lax sometimes. He has lapses of concentration, and I think his value is really high at the minute. And let's not hang around and let's not wait until that drops. I think maybe Gordon is in that camp potentially. If we can get, people talk about 70 million, don't they? I mean, if you sell Tino and Gordon for 70 million each, that's a pretty hefty, war chest you'd think they would have overall. And you got to back yourself then to go into the market and get some quality players to come in and refresh things,
Yeah, definitely. You'd expect us to. And just on that, Luke Edwards was reporting earlier that Newcastle had reportedly set fees for Tonali, Gordon, and Livramento, the three that you mentioned there. Interestingly enough, and the club would apparently demand at least 100 million each for Tonali and Gordon, while Livramento would cost at least 60 million. Hopkinson saying the players will only leave on the club's terms this summer. Ian, I'm going to ask you the first question last as well. Do you think Newcastle have to sell a big player this summer? But also, do you think those comments of setting prices and only allowing players to leave on our terms, you think that sets us up for another Isak saga in the summer?
I think they're trying to avoid an Isak saga. I think they're going to be able to say, we're not standing in anybody's way to go who wants to go. We just want to make sure that we get full value for when they go. And these are great players. We've got them still on 3 or 4 years of contract left. So if you want them, you've got to pay the price. And if teams want them, then they will pay the price. I think Gordon's 100 million if Tonali is. I don't know why you're thinking he should be dropped down to 70, to be honest. But I'm not sure that it will go. I think we've got to play clever. If it's Man City that want Livramento and they're balking at too high a price, let's let them put James Trafford in the other way, and we'll get him through that way. Similarly, if it was Man U that were after Tonali, I mentioned them putting Kobbie Mainoo in, coming the other way. Let's get some ready-made replacements, Premiership-ready replacements, back as part of the fee, and we'll still have the profit and the cash to go into the market. And when we do that, we need to go into the market, into the right market. We need to be clever with where we spend our money. We don't want to be paying premium on top for allegedly Premiership-ready teams like we did last year, because we overpaid certainly on Elanga, certainly on Voltemada, certainly on Visser. And if that was only 15 million on top of each of them, that's another 45 million that we could have had to spend. So it is a massive, massive summer. I think it's a good move to do what's been done, because nobody will say they're not letting us go. We're not holding anyone to ransom. We've just got fair value, as we put it, on top. So maybe that'll get the deals done early, which is what we want as well, to have more time to bring guys in and get a pre-season into them.
Can I just jump in as well? Sorry,
yeah,
Ian.
Please do.
And I think as well, you're talking about being proactive, Michael, and like doing things on our terms is what's being said. And I've mentioned this to Win before as well. With Tonali, in terms of, like I said, doing it on your own terms is not a good idea for Newcastle now. I know it's not the end of the season right now, but get into Tonali's head, figure out, does he want to stay or not? As early as possible, find that out. And if it comes to the point where, do you know what, he's going to go,
He doesn't want to be here. We can't turn that round. Try and get him out of England, so he doesn't go to Man United. Because I just think, like, I can accept it. It's a season, summer of change. It's a transition. You might lose players you don't ideally want to lose. I can accept that, but I think if you're going to arm Man United with Tonali, or even, dare I say, Bruno, which I don't think will happen, to be fair, but that's been talked about. I think we've got to try and be proactive to stop that, and maybe do some deals where they go elsewhere. It's easier said than done, I appreciate that, but in an ideal world, that's what we would try and do.
Yeah, to be honest, I completely agree. Like, if you're going to sell these big names, ideally, I don't mind doing it to Manchester City, because realistically they're going to be above us. And now what we're saying about 2030, they're going to be above us until, I don't know, something happens to them in regards to their ownership, realistically. Liverpool, 30. Maybe a little bit more realistic, and Arsenal probably be up there as well. But Man United, Chelsea, for example, as well. I know we're not linked in particular with Chelsea. Chelsea not linked with our players yet. But if you sell to them, you're almost shooting yourself in the foot for next season. So I completely agree. Yeah, 100%. Win, what do you think, mate? Do you think we're going to have to sell a big player? And if we do you think it's better that they go abroad?
I think Mr. Hopkinson's, as usual, coming out with all the right words. But the bottom line, as we all know, is that Newcastle United will not decide where our players go to. We can have a say in how much is paid for them in terms of just refusing low ball offers. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line, as we've found to our cost, is that if a player has decided that he wants to go to a certain club, there's very little we can do about it, sadly.
There's a shift, isn't there? There's a shift in how we're approaching that. If it is Tonali this year, we've said, you can go. You can go, but we want this amount of money. If we'd done that with Isaac and told Liverpool it was 150 million at the start of the summer, if you remember, he's going to cost 150 million, I think we'd have got 125 off them before the end of July.
I think you would have probably got 150 off Arsenal at the time.
Well, maybe.
If you'd said he was available, because Arsenal were all over.
That's the key thing, though, is it's a change of approach by our guys to let players go instead of trying to hang on to them, whoever they are. I think that's positive.
Well, it's certainly good. The article you mentioned from Luke Edwards there, which I haven't seen yet, I'd be interested to have a look at it. I would love to know where those figures came from. And if they're being bandied about, why not just make them public? Why not just say, anybody want Tonali, give her 100 million, you can have them. Anybody want Gordon, give her 100 million, you can have them. Anybody want Livramento, give us whatever you said it was, 60 million, and you can have them.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's be honest.
I think that's a brilliant way to do business.
Yeah, let's be honest. If we're in a position where we are happy letting those kind of players go, well, I say happy, content, because we're confident in who we can bring in, then sure, why not? There's got to be a season of transition. Clearly on the pitch, it's been a good season to do that this season, let's say, because it hasn't been great. Why not? And just going to some of the chats we've got in there. Sugar Ray Valentine saying no one's paying 100 million for Tonali. I was inclined to agree. I said I think we'll get 75, 80 for him on one of the episodes we had before. Gavin Fuller saying we're going backwards in my opinion. I hope I'm wrong. If we lose Tonali on top of the rat, we are not attractive. The same quality with no UCL and no takeover feel good factor.
It entirely depends on who they spend the money on, though, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Entirely what it depends.
Entirely. When they sold Andy Cole, and we all thought, oh my God, we found somebody who's brilliant, he's gone straight away. What a load of rubbish. We're never going to get anyone like Andy Cole. Then bloody Shearer signed. So it entirely depends on what they spend that money on. I admit, if they can find 4 or 5 more whizzes to spend their money on this summer, we will be up the creek. But you've got to trust that they're not going to do that. By the way, I do like the public knowledge of how much our players cost. My idea is to slightly change everybody's black and white top, turn them into real barcodes, for each of the players, and then you could just scan them when they're playing to see how much it would cost.
Well, Ian, we're going to get that next season. Have you seen the shirt?
No,
You'll be able to scan
bring it
them.
in. Bring it in
Oh,
for these
but
last seven.
I
These
love
last
that.
7
I
games.
am not unusually. I'm kind of away from the crowd because I love the barcode shirt.
I like that one. I'm not too keen on what I've seen for next season, but
I
that's
haven't,
another
I haven't
story.
seen next season's, but
I'm not too keen, but I love Ian's idea, to be honest. I think
have-
15
it
years'
have-
time, that'll probably be in there.
It would have to be a different barcode on a different black and white shirt on each of the players for them to be able to be
Yeah.
identified with your giant scanner.
instead of having the number on the back, have a QR code.
It goes up depending on their performance.
Yeah, the number that they're playing is going. Tonali will be number 100.
Wissa came and missed a sitter. His number went from 55 to 5.
Bruno would be 200. he is Bruno is the only player in the current squad who I would be absolutely devastated to lose.
Yeah, I agree. I'd kind of be there with Hall, but
you know, the
Bruno,
American
yeah.
mag argues it's all just PR that he does and he hasn't got any real affinity. I just don't believe that.
Oh, they're real tears. They're real tears. Let's see him again when he holds up the Europa Conference League next season. I don't want Bruno to go. I think we've got to hang on to Hall. We've got to hang on to Miley as well.
They're the
I think
three for me.
There's a core of a team to start building around. I also would love to make sure that we had Chow and Botman. I think that's a great back line, and they're just going to get better the more they play together. But, can't see anyone coming in for Chow or Botman, to be honest.
No, I think it's risky signings for any side, really. Chow, if he'd played like he did up until, let's say, the Leeds game, because the mistakes have sort of crept in since then. I think teams probably would have come in, but now those individual errors have come in once in a while. He's gone from being considered as one of the top centre backs in the league for that short period to there's a reason is at Newcastle and not at one of those bigger, shall we say, clubs, which is what the agenda is now. So fair play. I think Botman, let's be honest as well, no one's coming in for him at the price we'd want. But just a few things on Sandro Tonali. So we got in the chat there, Kenny saying Tonali to Manchester United is a sideways step for him, while Niall is saying Manchester United can't afford Sandro. They've even said so. He did put a chat in just afterwards as well, saying a lot of the top journals associated with Manchester United have said that as well. And then Lion Point saying Tonali is worth 75 to 85 million tops. I'm inclined to agree, but it all depends on who wants him as well, because as we know, value isn't decided by us apparently, based on that whole Isak saga. But let's get into
where do you guys stand on the Italy elimination from the World Cup last night?
I find it hilarious. My boss is Italian, and he was literally saying like they expect it to happen just because of what's happened with Sweden and Macedonia beforehand. But it is hilarious because that was the banker last night, wasn't it?
It's crazy. I mean, I think they were maybe overconfident. Have you seen that clip where that's going back to haunt them, where it's showing the Italian players watching the either it might be the draw or it might be the previous match that who did they
after
play
the
against?
Wales penalties?
Bosnia-Herzegovina they played last night.
Yeah. So I think they were watching them play their previous game to decide who plays Italy, and they were kind of like fist pumping when Bosnia won, as in like, oh, get in, we're going to play them, we'll be fine. That's good. And then it ends up to play them.
They beat Wales, of course.
So maybe a bit of cockiness there is what's cost them. But it's crazy when you think of a country like Italy, the history they've got and the football and the icons they've produced and the teams they've produced over the years, to not be in the World Cup like 3 times in a row. There's something going wrong there, isn't there? That, I mean, I can't say I know myself what the exact problem is there, but yeah, I think the minister has resigned, isn't he? Was it the sports minister or someone? the Italian FA. I'm not sure, but it's crazy.
Yeah, so one of the things I've sort of heard of, and I know just to go off topic slightly with it, but Tonali is one of the rare examples of a younger player in Italy getting played and getting regular minutes. One of the issues they seem to have is a lot of their under-21s and under-18s don't get minutes for their clubs. We've got a few from Atalanta in defence who we've been linked with. Quite commonly, they seem to be getting a lot of minutes, but for the likes of Inter Milan, etc., it's not quite like what it used to be. AC Milan have a striker that tore Newcastle apart in the youth league, Kamada, and he was the one that was supposed to be, the next big thing. Italy missing a striker. He got loaned out to Lecce, and he doesn't even play for them. So maybe it tells you a lot. They're not willing to rely on their youth in the league phases, in league games, etc. And that's the difference between the Prem and Serie A, but not willing to rely on youngsters kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it? Because I've heard that a lot this season.
Even more annoying that we couldn't bloody beat them in the Euros final, though, isn't it? I mean,
yeah,
I thought we were going to win that, and we started so well, and then back to the Southgate discussions. God, like being in a time machine. We don't need to talk about that again.
Nick Gillis on the Baltimore subject is saying, so the club has a mature conversation with him and his agent. Say, yes, you can go, but not if it's a way that helps us. If it's not in a way that helps us, we will make it hard. Get them on side. Yeah, we've got to have those conversations way before the window opens, is what I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. We probably should be having. We should have already had them. Really, I think just with everything that's been coming out, or at least in the coming weeks, sitting there and saying, right, Sandro, we are fully aware it's your agent peddling all of this. You did it. He did it in the January window as well, trying to get Arsenal involved. What's the end game here? This is what we want. The only way you're leaving is if we get what we want. But if we do, more than happy to let yourself go. And yeah, I think that is the 100% the way to go. The chat's 100% right there. And Nick coming in as well.
Interesting comment from Gavin Fuller there saying Tonali has been devaluing himself for the last 6 months. We should not fall for it.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far. Sorry, Ian, what were you going to say, Matt?
I just think that's rubbish. I think Tonali's putting a load of effort in. He's bloody knackered as well. He plays nearly every game, doesn't he?
Yeah.
The last thing he's going to do is try and devalue himself. That's absolute tosh.
Yeah, completely agree.
I haven't got a logical argument on it. I just disagree strongly with it, like Christina does.
We were saying earlier in the season that he was one of our better players, and that when I think it was Bruno initially got injured, Tonali was asked to play a little bit deeper. We were saying he was playing really, really well. I think his performances have decreased a little bit in 2026, February onwards. Mainly for me I don't know if that's when. Well, actually, that lines up with the transfer window, so we'll pretend that's what I was going with the whole time. But the performances aren't quite where they used to be. I don't know what that's down to. Maybe it is down to all of this.
Passes for me that he never used to do. His passing was always radar perfect, and so often now, whether it's because the other players are not on his wavelength, and he's expecting them to go somewhere that they're not. But every game now there seems to be one or two passes that go way off target.
Yeah, simple ones as well.
Yeah.
What about you, Peter? What do you think?
He's definitely gone off the boil. Like, overall, if you look at, the whole picture, I think he's had some good moments. He's had a couple of games where you think, okay, he's back, kind of getting close to his best again. And then he'll dip, and then he sometimes he'll have games where he's just a bit quiet and he's not influencing the game like you would want him to, like he was last season. So it's tricky. I mean, he's a quality player. We know that, and he's got potential to get even better. I think his best years are ahead of him. So that's the frustrating thing. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, he hasn't been his best this season, but you always kind of, you wonder, well, if he goes, what we're going to miss out on, because he could rock up at another club and really, like I say, have his best years ahead of him. But
He would.
yeah,
He would
but
do that.
at the end of the day,
I
I'd rather keep Bruno. If you're talking about losing either Tonali or Bruno, I love them both. But if I had to choose between those two, I'd rather keep Bruno and sell Tonali.
I agree entirely with what you've said, Peter. There, Tonali has gone off the boil, but his off the boil is still at such a high level. He's still a really valuable member of the team. He still puts in his 7 out of 10 performances very regularly. Yes, his passing radar's gone off a little bit. I think that could just be fatigue, mental fatigue. But the point I was disagreeing with on the comment that we saw was that he's deliberately devaluing himself over the last 6 months, which I think is absolute tosh. I don't think a professional footballer on the telly every weekend, in the shop window, if you like, is going to be deliberately playing worse than he can.
Yeah. If anything, you would play better. Do you know what I mean? I know he's talking about devaluing his valuation, but I don't think players kind of work things out that to that extent in terms of complicating it that much. I think if a player wants to move, normally they would play better to put themselves in the shop window and then get the agent to do the work behind the scenes to tout them around to the bigger clubs. So yeah, I agree, and I can't say that he's trying to devalue his valuation.
Well, it was Kenny had one in there from. Does anyone here think? Oh, there it is. Does anyone think Tonali might stay at the Toon? Yes, I do. I think
What do you
he might.
think?
I think he might give us. He might feel that he owes us another year because of the way we're stuck with him through his ban and things, and the way the crowd didn't turn on him, really supported him. Came out, when Eddie said he wanted the biggest reception he'd ever heard, and he got it. I know he seems to be a very undemonstrative fellow, but I think that did get to him a bit, and I've just got a little hope and an expectation in the back of my mind that he will show us that little bit extra loyalty. I know it's rare in this modern world of professional football, but I think you're right, I have that hope.
I think you're right, but I think that is this season. Because I think after last season, he could have.
Well, last season we won a cup and got in the Champions League.
I know, but look at if he is, as his agent said, the plan was always to move on to one of the bigger teams, something like that. They said.
Yeah.
Then last season was the time where he could have asked to go anywhere and would have been accommodated because he was absolutely superb last season and playing in a very successful team. So I think I agree with what you said. I think it did get to him with the way he was welcomed back after he'd been banned. But I think that was this season that we got extra out of him. And I think that's why there'll be a gentleman's agreement at the end of this season that if we don't have something good to offer like Europe, we'll allow him to move on.
Well, except that that's been officially denied, but that was reported that there'd been a gentleman's agreement with him, and then it was absolutely flatly denied by an official club statement. There is no agreement of any description in place between the club and Sandro Tonali as regards.
His agent obviously thinks that there's not going to be as difficult to move at the end of the season.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
So,
to be honest, I think you might have a good point with last season as well, because obviously it's Arsenal that were linked with him. They went in pretty much straight away for Zubamendi, didn't they? They got their business done really early, and if Newcastle were, saying, look, we'll want to keep you for another season, give with that another season, Arsenal go and sign Zubamendi, they have the season they've had. Then Sandro's agent in January sitting there going, well, I'm going to spin those rumours again and try and get that cog going again. I could actually see that. I could actually see you. That's a good point.
Gavin's doubling down. He's saying nobody could afford him 6 months ago. But what happens if his agent said to him, "Look, you've been playing 8 out of 10 every game you're playing. You're playing yourself out of a move." That might have been enough to put him off. I can't see.
Playing to try and get into Real Madrid's midfield or Arsenal's midfield.
Yeah, exactly.
Man City's midfield. You cannot do that by being indifferent. Can it?
Yeah.
Not
So
for
do you
Newcastle.
ring the club the club that you potentially want to go to? Do you ring them up and go, "By the way, I'm going to play crap this weekend, but don't worry, I'm just doing it on purpose. So I am still a quality player." You know what I mean? Like, I think the clubs would then be put off, wouldn't they, if you play too bad? So I can't buy into that strategy, fortunately.
What do you make of the? Sorry, go on, Ian.
No, it's all right. Just mean that's just extending collusion and corruption a little bit too in depth and in too much detail. Tonali's got to phone up the 26 clubs that might want to buy him every weekend and say, "I'm going to be a bit off it in the second half.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I'm doing it on purpose. I'll be really good in the first half, but that's better than I normally am."
Yeah.
Peter, what do you make on the whole Tonali debate? Do you if he wants to leave, do you cash in on him?
I would try and turn it round, but early doors, I would make a quick judgment as to whether that is likely. And if it's not likely early doors that he's not going to budge, then okay, right, you quickly accept that he's going to go. I mean, to me, it feels like to me, sitting here now, that he's more likely to go, I think, in the summer. If you ask me what's going to happen, I think the issue we've got is if a Champions League club comes in, and then certainly if bloody Real Madrid are being linked, then there's nothing you can do then. But I think even if it's not Madrid, if it's just a Champions League club, and if we're not in that competition, you know what I mean? You're backed into a corner straight away. And I can see Champions League clubs coming in for him this summer. So I think that's why it's going to be a bit tricky to keep him.
Borky says he's bet a tenner on himself leaving the Toon this summer.
I hope he loses that bet, I'll be honest. But there's a good comment in there from Ronald Turnbull. Does his girlfriend want away? Obviously, he's just got married. He's just had a baby. I've had to look this up. I don't know off the top of my head before anyone thinks I'm a weirdo. She's an Italian model, influencer, and fashion designer. Not gonna lie, if you're an Italian influencer and fashion designer, you've got a kid. I don't think you can really do that job based in Newcastle upon Tyne. And I love Newcastle, but I don't think, Brescia to Milan to Newcastle. I've got a feeling, because Tonali said this as well, early doors, he had struggled to adapt to Newcastle originally. I've got a feeling that she's in exactly the same boat, and maybe it's that home life that's actually leading to this a little bit as well.
I
and
don't
if
know,
that is
because
the case,
if you remember, can you remember when he came and they had all of these, there was a lot of other enemy channels, shall we say, showing him, and he always had a face like thunder.
yeah.
And they were saying this is because he's at Newcastle and doesn't want to be at Newcastle, and some clever guy in Newcastle social media found this summer photograph of him on a yacht in the sunshine in his trunks with this beautiful model next to him, who's probably is the mother of his child, and he looked exactly the same. He still had this, really dour face. And you think, the George Best moment, I'm surrounded by, I've got Miss World going to bed. I've got £60,000 on the bed, it was that sort of moment, and he's still got a face like
Like
Sandro's
thunder.
face.
Yeah, that's the thing. For me, I think I completely get where you come from. For me, it's just the working situation. Like, if she was willing to sort of put that aside and go, I'm going to put everything into parent and stuff like that, I'm going to put my career on the side, or something like that, then I don't think she'd mind where she is. But that whole industry, I mean, obviously you can tell by the state of it, I ain't in it, but I can imagine that kind of industry so hectic and so, very, very difficult to navigate that. That was sort of my mindset around that. But to be honest, I hope it's done early. And I think that is the most important thing.
Aye, because there was a comment there, Michael, in the comments saying about, when I mentioned about trying to turn it around, and someone said there, I'm just trying to find it here, like, look what happened to Isaac, when we tried that. But I think what we're saying is that you do it early doors, you try and turn it around. Yeah, Kenny then in the chat, they try to turn the Isaac situation around. Look how that ended. So yeah, no, I agree. So you try and maybe you say to Tonali, look, we want you to stay. You try and kind of like give him the Kevin Keegan treatment, make him 10 foot tall, and we love you here. We want you to stay. Give us one more year. But if you get I don't know, a week later and he's still, or 5 days, whatever, and he's digging his heels in, don't do the Isaac scenario again and just just say, no, you're not moving. At that point, give him a chance to turn it around, to change his mind. If he doesn't want to, though, early doors, you just accept that he wants to go, and that's that. Like, it's a good lesson. The Isaac saga is a good lesson to learn from, innit? So we certainly don't want to go down that route again.
Yeah, I completely agree. Ian, what do you think? Is it one where you can see Newcastle digging their heels in, or you think we've learned from past mistakes?
I hope we've learned from past mistakes. I hope we have. I mean, we could actually say to Tonali, you want to go, that's great, because we're disappointed with how you dropped off from last year. And let's not get into the point where we're looking like we're begging for somebody to change their mind like we were with Isaac. It's embarrassing just thinking about that. All of the flying over to go up to his house for lunch to try and persuade him, and still not getting anywhere. My God, we do not want to be doing that. If Tonali wants to go, we know that to get anywhere near the sort of money to spend that our teams we're competing with, or we want to compete with, are going to spend, we've got to trade. Then let's trade the ones that we can get a good money for and that are indifferent about whether they stay or they don't. Put it that way. They're the ones we need to trade.
Yeah, 100%.
I think Bruno.
Do you think
that's
that
why
could be any?
Bruno won't go. That's why Bruno won't go, because he's not somebody who's indifferent.
Do you think that could be any mileage in saying that? I know he allegedly, we've never seen any physical proof, but allegedly, and this is according to multiple sources, Tonali signed a new contract with a year's extension on at a reduced rate or something. Do you think there would be any point in saying to him, basically, we're doing another Isaac situation. You want to go, fine, this is what we'll be asking for you. Or, if you want, you can kill all the rumours, stone dead. There's another brand new contract. Put a figure in that's obviously few bob more than what he's on now.
Yeah.
And put a sale figure in there and say, so, right, if you're saying you don't want to go and it's not going to drag on, sign that, and then we can just announce that to the press and it's put to bed. Well, I would hope that we're going through that process with all of them.
Exactly.
Every time. Michael's asking, question is, if you know that he wants to go, would you dig your heels in? So I'm assuming we've gone through that process with everybody. I think with Lewis Hall, if someone sniffing around them, they might be able to sweeten that contract, then Lewis Hall will stop because he's a Newcastle fan, isn't he?
Except that he is allegedly again currently negotiating with the club on a new contract.
Yeah.
Well, he must be due a new contract. I mean, he'd still be on whatever he was when he came as a.
No, he has had an increase since then, but I think.
So I would hope that we would be taking that practical approach with everybody who we wanted to retain, but being realistic about it. And if they want to go, because of player power, because we've already been bitten by the Isak situation, we lean into it. We work with them. I mean, from our perspective, if there's somebody like that, they're better out as soon as possible, before pre-season training, if possible, so we can have our money spent and the new lads in first day of term, as it were.
Indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, I thought I'd take a look there, see what the wages of the team are actually like. And these are from Cabology, so only some of them are confirmed, but usually a ballpark is pretty spot on. And it has actually Tino and Lewis Hall both on less than Emil Kraft. So Emil Kraft came in on a 55, got a new contract, an extension, should we say, last year, in 2025, on 55 grand a week. Tino and Hall are apparently both still on the original contracts that they signed, although I think Lewis Hall's got an extension clause in there, which is why it doesn't run out this year. So they're 50 and 45 a week, apparently. I mean, it's an chump change. But Sandro Tonali sitting on 150,000, the same apparently as Joe Linton, and only 10 grand more than Johan Wissa. If you asked for 250, actually, we weren't willing to give Isak 250, so it's pointless me asking that.
Well, again, they're talking to Bruno apparently, and they said he would become Newcastle's first 200,000.
Yeah. So if he asks for 195,
Tonali's worth being Newcastle's second 200,000.
Yeah,
even if Bruno's on 220 and Tonali's on 200, something like that.
Yeah,
I mean, we'll have a lot more money. We should be able to afford some more wages.
Yeah, because that's what I was thinking. If he asks for, unfortunately, I think it would be over 200 grand he asks for. But let's say him and Bruno, because I think there's the rumor that Bruno has that clause of anything anyone else gets. Yeah, he is our highest earner, to be fair. But let's say if you offered both of them 220 grand, let's say. I think that's what we were going to offer Isak. Someone can correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. That was the highest we were apparently willing to go. But if we offered that, and it did disrupt the wage structure of Newcastle United, because the next highest player would be Anthony Gordon and Joe Linton on 150, would you be happy to do that? Giving Bruno an extra 60 grand a week and Tonali an extra 70 grand a week, just to keep them at the club? What do you think, Wyn?
I would definitely. We've got to start getting into those brackets with our first team.
Mm-hmm.
Because until we do, again, it all boils down to what Hopkinson said when he first came in. His primary job is to raise the revenue, commercial revenue.
Yeah.
Because without the commercial revenue, as Darren Neal said before that, everything follows on from that. The calibre of player you can buy, the wages you can pay, directly reflect where you end up in the league. You can outperform, as we've done for 4 years now, but sooner or later it catches up.
Yeah, 100%. And it all comes down to money at the end of the day, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's the be all and end all. You can have your big crowds, your fancy stadiums, your brilliant players, but at the end of the day, if the money's not coming in, it's not going to last very long. Peter, what do you think?
The point is, with your bigger fancy stadiums, there's your cash cow. That massively increases your. We are currently on 50 on the counts just published. Match day revenue, 52 million or something.
Yeah.
Compare that to 100 million at Man U,
etc.
well, they're all much bigger.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You're absolutely correct. Peter, what do you reckon, mate? Would you give Bruno Tonali, 60 and 70 grand wage increases to keep him at the club?
I would be doing that with Lewis Hall. By all accounts, that's what they are doing. I'm not sure if I would do that with Tonali. I think, Ian, you mentioned there about his performance this season. I don't know. Does it maybe send the wrong signal to reward I know he's a quality player, and in
Agree.
an ideal world, we keep him. I'm not denying that, but I'm just saying, if you start dish, it does not look a bit desperate. I don't know. I don't
The
know.
other
I
thing
just think,
which we've not
yeah,
mentioned, which means I wouldn't go completely daft and smash the wage structure for all the problems that'll bring further down the line with Tonali is, in my view, we have got a lad sitting on the bench a lot of the time who could step into Tonali's shoes and wouldn't cost us any more in Lewis Miley.
yeah,
He needs
yeah.
a
So I'm
first
not
team slot.
exactly. We've got Ramsey in there as well. You'd expect they might even look to sign, obviously, a new player in that position, just to, I think, add a bit of pace in there potentially if Willock's going to go as well. So I'm not
Bergval,
sure if I
when
would.
Tottenham get
If I would
relegated.
say again, Ian.
Bergval, when Tottenham get relegated.
Possibly. Don't
He's
say
just a
that
young
about
lad.
you,
He's,
like.
a young, he's just a young lad, but he's impressed me when I've watched him.
Yeah, same.
But he's of an age where he could be a squad player for a year or two.
Aye.
But then no discernible dip in the quality when he comes on as a sub.
I agree. He's been one of the players I've seen for Tottenham who actually looks like he's got a bit of appetite, and he's been one of the few that stands out as like you say, he's half decent, isn't he?
It
We've
might
got some
cost a
decent
bit.
young
It might
players.
cost a bit because other teams will be looking at him as well.
True.
I think, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure he gets into a Man City midfield or an Arsenal midfield.
Wazzer in there with a super chat as well. I want a big signing this summer to cheer me and you up. Absolutely was. I need it, to be honest, if I'm completely honest. Because was there a signing? I got excited for Voltamada. I'm not entirely sure why, because at the time he wasn't really proven, but I thought he was going to be the next big thing. I've got a slight bit of egg on my face from that, but I thought he was going to be great. Still could be, but I need a big signing. I need a big sign. I completely agree. And I was just tallying up something there as well from the midfield. So between Joe Linton, Ramsey, and Willock, we pay 350 grand a week for that midfield three. And if you include Bruno and Tonali in that, that's 660 grand a week just for our midfield options. Compare that to Brentford, whose wage structure is apparently $1 million a week for the entire squad. It seems a bit mental, but that's where we've got to be, isn't it? And you look at Joe Willock on 80 grand a week. Great when he first signed, but realistically, that's the one that has to go. But we're actually going to save quite a lot on wages the coming summer if we don't keep Ramsdale on his 120 grand. Trippier 120 grand, and Becca's put me on the spot. What signing would cheer you up, Magic Mike? You know what? It would have to be a pretty young, talented winger, I think, on that right-hand side. The right-hand side to go in front of Alanga to replace Murphy. Yildiz from Juventus is a massive one. I'm not saying that's realistic. But I think if with the players we've got going out, there'd be potential there for a swap deal. But there's a lot of good players in there. Tell you what, we'll not just leave that one for me. Is there anyone in there that you think will?
You've mentioned right wing there, Michael. Mm-hmm. I'm just off the top of my head, I'm thinking, what about Kudos? If Tottenham go down,
And what about Xavi Simons?
I'd take Kudos over him.
I hate Kudus' attitude, but Simmons, No, for me, I watched the West Ham versus Spurs game where he got sent off and he just completely gave up. He'd had a bit of an attitude problem before that, but literally gave up of just, I'm done with this, I'm throwing a hissy fit on the pitch. And don't get me wrong, tremendously talented player. But for me, that attitude he showed then, I can never get over it. I do agree, though, he'd be a great player. And Simmons as well.
You know how Chelsea live a prophet, whoever it is, like this old Conor Gallagher after he was their player of the season. What about Estevao for the right wing, Michael?
Now you're getting me excited.
You're getting moist. Are you getting those, Michael?
Hey, that's not appropriate for radio. Actually, probably more appropriate for radio than YouTube, to be honest. But no, that would be a great time. I don't think it'd be one that would happen maybe if Rosinha stayed, because he seems to be a little bit more in the whole, let's be really disciplined, and you don't really get that from Brazilian wingers. But yeah, that's the kind of signing that would excite me. Yeah, I think that'd be fantastic. So are they the three we've got in there? Xavi Simons, Mohamed Kudus and Estevao. Or is there anyone else you want to add in?
I mean, if you're talking about really blowing me frock up, Jared Bowen.
Yes.
Aye.
Not sure Daddy Dyer or either Daddy Dyer would appreciate
it. He could never argue with him going. And he would not want him to go to Chelsea or Arsenal.
True.
Who are the two teams that have been mooted? And
How old
not
is he
even
now, though?
Spurs, if Spurs stayed up.
Is he getting on for West's age? Bowen?
He's 29. He's in his prime.
He's got no sell-on value, you mean?
Yeah, I know, but you make up for the sell-on value by what you win.
Well, he's a great player. I wish Bruce had got him. Bruce could have had him.
Yeah, exactly.
That was... the cash up.
Yeah.
12 million or something we got him, and Ashley wouldn't pay it.
Yeah, he was. They were saying he was actually on the train or something up here, wasn't he? He was in the car maybe up here, and then he got told. Yeah,
he was sitting with Steve Bruce at Weatherby Services, waiting for the call. That's how close it was, apparently. Mind you, that's a Steve Bruce story, so it might be made up.
And then was in with another super chat as well. How about Spurs' stadium, as we ain't got one?
Can't play right wing, unfortunately. So
I'm not into a soulless bowl, but I guess we'd make sure it wasn't soulless as a fan base, wouldn't we? So that, to be honest, it lays a great groundwork. Daniel Taylor in there as well, one I'd completely forgotten about. Iliman Ndiaye, or as they call him, Skillerman Ndiaye, from Everton would be class. Yeah,
he is really good. Yeah, it would cost a lot, but I mean, Everton are on the up now, so
he might already be with a Champions League team next year.
Yeah, to be honest, there's a horrific chance of that, isn't there? Oh, we can dream. We can dream. I would love to see that kind of stuff.
Yeah, he's class. Enjoy quality player, and it'll be interesting to see whether he does stay. To be fair, if some of the even sort of bigger clubs come in terms of you're thinking about Man City and Arsenal, or maybe even someone abroad. I think Everton might be tested this summer with Ndiaye, because he's top class player. But Moyes is doing a class job there, to be fair. You mentioned West Ham, Michael. And Wynn's mentioned Jared Bowen. Someone that's just came to mind, who's always stands out to me whenever I see West Ham, is Somerville. He's really good.
100%.
Yeah. So I think he's maybe one to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, 100%.
The family connection, that's who Tim was mentioning earlier on.
Oh.
Is it? Okay, right.
The whole family's a fan. And to be honest, Soma, when he left Leeds, I thought he was going to hit the ground running at West Ham. Hasn't quite done it, but he looks a bit like that. Not quite. I don't want to compare every skillful, pacey winger to Saint-Maximin, but he is that kind of player who can beat a man. End product isn't quite great, but he's brilliant at getting past his man, getting something into the box. Yeah. If he could improve his end product, whew, what a player. But if we are going to bring in a player of that quality, it is being made to sound like we're going to have to balance the books, unfortunately. And, there's talks of Tonali, there's talks of Bruno, Gordon, Livramento, Hall. We've spoke about pretty much all of them, but I'm going to ask, how many players of that calibre could Newcastle lose this summer before it seriously damages the project? Because I'm looking at Gordon and I'm thinking, okay, that one's maybe one we could survive. Livramento, maybe one we could survive. Tonali, I think we could survive. I don't think Bruno, we could. Maybe even Hall as well, just because it is left back. But how many do you think it would take to lose of those big players before it seriously damages this project? Win, what do you think?
Well, this is where I'm going to just come back to my faith in our leader. Misplaced, some would say. But that's, to me, Eddie's biggest trait, best trait, is player improvement. And I just think he would find somebody to come in and do the job. Or, you know, we've also got to rely, of course, on Ross Wilson doing a good job. And, you know, if we're selling all of those players, we've got a lot of money to spend.
Yeah.
And it's got to be spent better than it was this summer.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is not down to Eddie. But, you know, the one thing that we've seen since day one until this season, you could argue, is he does improve players.
Yeah.
Enormously. We've now got 6 players in the England squad. I had 6 players in the England squad yesterday. I don't think any of them would have been there were it not for Eddie Howe's coaching. Pick a one that would.
I think Gordon might have made it. And I think Hall and Livermore would have done with time, but probably not in the same time span. So they wouldn't have made it yesterday. I think Gordon might have made it. But yeah, Barnes definitely wouldn't have. Byrne wouldn't have had a chance. So it is a great point. He does improve players. I know we've seen plenty of people say, "Oh, who's he improved this season?" And we keep talking about this season. But overall, you know, whether it was at Bournemouth, whether it's at Newcastle, he has improved a lot of players. Just before I go to Ian and Peter, that question, just going to go through to some of the chat. Nick saying 3, Sugar Ray, Valentine saying at least 2 are going, but probably Tonali and Gordon. Bruno stays. Daniel Taylor saying 3 would be too many. Like following up with, it all depends on how good the recruitment is. And Becca saying, Bruno stays. You heard it here first. I am in the know. Well, I'll bank on that. But Peter, what are you thinking, mate? How many of those big players could we afford to sell before it damages this project?
I think you can afford to lose them all. As long as Graham Souness comes in as director of football, then you're sorted. So, aye.
There we have it.
April Fools, everyone. I think.
Oh, hey, talking about April Fool, who got done this morning at 6 and 7 o'clock?
I didn't. What by?
Did you not see it in the forum? Eddie Howe resigns.
I didn't see it. No.
Oh, full article following Hopkinson's comments and da-di-da-di-da. Eddie Howe has resigned. Fortunately, just before I went to bed, I'd sent a different April Fool myself to somebody else. And so when I saw that, I thought, hang on a minute. And of course, when you click on the link to the article, April Fool. But there was loads of the forum members. Join the forum, by the way, folks, if you get the chance. Who got done by it.
Yeah, I just seen it there from Dan, actually. Just went through. Fair play. Massively long comment as well.
Good news for you, Win. Eddie out now, innit? So.
It did. You know, I had that moment. What?
That initial second you thought.
And then I suddenly thought, it's April the 1st. Let's double check.
Yeah.
So that
nice.
was the best
still there.
Fool I've seen for a long time.
Peter, what were you going to say on the players losing in the project?
I just think, like, you've got to... It's going to be a season of change. And, like, to me, it looks stale, doesn't it? Like, you can pick out players and you can say, okay, he's quality. We can't afford to lose all these players. But, like, you see, for me, I think we've got to keep Lewis Hall. got to keep Bruno, and like you have said, Miley, I think as well. Tonali, Gordon, and Tino. If you can get really good money for them, yeah, I think you've got to back yourself, like I say, to use that money and reinvest to get players even better. Not just as good, but better than Tino and definitely better than Gordon. I mean, I think Gordon, he's doing a decent job up front. Don't get me wrong. I think, he's doing the best he can in that role. But for left wing, come on, he's flattered to deceive, and like, I think we need to cash in on him basically. So yeah, I don't see it as a massive negative if let's say if those three went, but they've got to back themselves to be proactive early doors in the market. If you lose, to be fair, that's probably my limit. Let's say that those three players, if you then go on and lose another player, like who's maybe even Harvey Barnes, I wouldn't want to lose Harvey Barnes as well as Gordon, do you know what I mean? And as well as Tonali. Like, maybe that's the cut-off point for me, Tonali, Gordon and Tino. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
I think that I agree with 3, Michael, for my thing. I don't think we want to lose any more than that. I mean, I think the whole point is the project will continue. It just might be a completely revamped project rather than a continuation of the first iteration. You'll remember that Trippier's a big part of this project and he's gone, presumably.
Mm-hmm.
Shah could be the same. He's been there since day one of this. I don't know if we're going to extend him by a year. Where's Dan Bird? Has he got a year left? Is that somebody who we give an extension to, or?
I think give him. He's got his year and let him go.
Right. Well, we're already going to lose 1 or 2. I mean, Pope probably is part of this this project because he came in very early on in it. So I think if you've got 3 retiring, moving on, and then another 3 go, it's a completely revamped team. Is it the same project? It depends how well they start next season, doesn't it? Could just be a revitalized project forging forward, or are we casting around for 3 months working out who can play where and who's going to do what, and having another inconsistent start to a season like this year, which will just be, I mean, the knives will be out, won't they, about the project. I think the project will continue anyway, as long as PIF are owning it. It's their project. But I think we've got to try and maintain some of that momentum, which, to be honest, we've lost a lot of it this season because of the results.
Yeah, 100%.
You can breathe new life into it by bringing some new blood into it. It's just not all in one transfer window. I think that does take all of the inertia, all of the momentum away.
Yeah, 100%. This one in there from Gavin Fuller as well. I do completely agree with you, and I'm worried about because all the players that came in thought we were taking over the league like City. We cannot spin that one to get the next crop. It's completely. It feels different to me.
Well, except that the players that we're going to be bringing in now have seen us in the Champions League twice. They've seen us win a trophy, so they're not buying into the relegation battling club that the Trips and Bruno and Byrne and them bought into.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, but you know, the point of getting it's all down to money and just quickly. That's where Newcastle are. This is match day revenue, and this is what a bigger stadium can do for you. We are currently sitting in 8th. Our match day revenue, 334 million, is like half of what Tottenham's, Man U, Arsenal, City, Liverpool, all of their new state, well, with the exception of Man United, obviously, but they are moving on as well. That's the key for me. It's the biggest boost that we can get to revenue.
Yeah, 100% agree. Let's be honest. If we want to compete with these kind of clubs, we do need. We broke that commercial record recently. We need to be breaking every record that we've got realistically on those financial figures as we look to push even further. And was is in there with another super chat as well. We still have 300 million to spend over 2 years. Remember, So there is still the options in there. And just one of the things that's come through today, I had to make sure this wasn't an April Fool's. It is a rumour, but it's one that's coming straight from the source, apparently. We've been linked with a pretty highly rated wonder kid in Brazil, which doesn't seem like Newcastle United at all. Palmeiras have apparently rejected 2 offers from Premier League clubs for... I think it's not Sergio Coensao. I've just wrote Coensao for some reason. A 16-year-old from South America, 20 plus million, and Newcastle United are apparently in the conversation. We're the ones that have been asking the most about him. Now, that doesn't sound like Newcastle United to me, buying 16-year-olds for 20 million from South America. But apparently, Newcastle are competing with Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester City, Liverpool, same as we were in the last window. If this 16-year-old wonder kid is going to move to anyone, are Newcastle in a position to win these battles? You asking a similar question on a different matter before, Peter. Are Newcastle in a position to win battles against those kind of clubs for these kind of players?
Well, there might be now with Ross Wilson in the building. So there was talk, wasn't there?
Thomas Federspiel, the
That him?
South American super scout.
All right.
Where does he play? Is he a striker or is he a midfielder, Michael? If he's a midfielder and he's a fan of Joe Linton and Guimaraes, then we're in the lead, aren't we? But if he's an attacker and he likes Estevan...
Well, but hang on, though.
Winger.
You see, this isn't daft, though, because anybody who's in Brazil will now be aware of Newcastle United because of J7 and
These
Bruno
kind of players.
playing for the national team.
Yeah, you'd like to think it would help.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and wasn't it Ross Wilson a little while ago? Didn't he come out and say like they are going to cast the net a bit wider? There was some kind of remark along those lines, wasn't there, about the transfer policy not just being restricted just to Premier League proven players. So maybe there has been a shift, and maybe what you're reading out there, Michael, maybe that is part of it. So we'll see. I would like to think it is something that we can kind of move towards and get these wonder kids. So fingers crossed. I think like I said last night, this summer's a big summer, not just for the club, but like if you look at the individuals, obviously Eddie Howe, will see what happens, but also for Hopkinson and for the DOF. Them two, it's a big summer for those two because they've got to show that the club, they can function. Do you know what I mean? Like we've had 2 years where it's just been chaos at boardroom level each year. And I think they've got to now come in and ensure that this summer, they can show stability and actually, be productive in the transfer market as well.
Absolutely.
Unlike the last 2 years.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I'm hoping he's got a list. I'm hoping he's got a list, Peter, that he's been desperate to get stuck into. And when the season finishes and we've got that 3 or 4 weeks through to the end of June, that we've got a little bit up our sleeve to move very quickly and bring 1 or 2 in this season, and then start afresh with all of that cash from that comes with a new season.
I think the main thing. I think the main thing for me is I'm not sure we're in a position to do this. Spend 20 million on a 16-year-old when realistically that money needs to go into the first team. What do you think, Wyn?
No, like I say, my priority this window is to improve the first 11. That's got to be the first objective for me. Looking to do things for the, the future-proof and all this. That's great. But we can't afford another season like this season. And the only way you can do that is by improving the first team. So to me, you buy players who are going to replace first-team players. I'm not saying you can't buy anybody else, but the priority should be buying first team ready players who are then going to relegate the current first team players to the bench, or satisfactorily replace the players that were being forced to offload. When I say forced, if you take Livramento, Tonali, if we're going to lose those because bigger clubs are coming, and as somebody who's that Daniel Taylor has just said, let's face it, we will always be a stepping stone to bigger clubs until we can offer the same wages. The unfortunate way the rules we are restricted by. Yeah.
To be fair, one of the players that we could let go to actually fund a deal like this, potentially, and Ian, I know you're not going to like this one. Nick coming in and asking, would you boys sell Asula? I like him. Now, I personally am of the opinion if it's 30 plus million, you've doubled what you paid for him. Sure, why not? But Ian, I imagine you have a different stance on that one. Actually, I do just want to apologise. Sorry, Ian. There was a super chat I didn't get to. Casadets are Spanish, not Brazil, Peter. From Waza. Thank you very much for the super chat, mate. Yeah, I completely missed that one out. I do apologise, Ian.
Lo siento.
Aye, that.
That was clever. Nice link. Yes, I would take the cash if there was enough cash on offer for Asula. I've seen flashes that I really like. I'm fed up of someone saying he's still really raw, though, isn't he? Where he's been coached by Premier League coaches for the last 3 years. He shouldn't still be raw now. Yeah. Fantastic goal against Man United.
Brilliant.
We reviewed the game where he played up front. Was it against Karabakh? One of the games he played up front, Michael. He touched the ball 3 times.
Yep.
3 times, and he played for an hour.
It was a disaster, wasn't it?
Appalling in that game. Never got a kick, and that was against a really poor team. I think it was the second leg against Karabakh that he started.
Yeah, that's exactly the game.
Because Gordon wasn't allowed to start and score another 5 goals to become Golden Boot. It was that game. He's flattered to deceive for me. He's had 3 seasons. I mean, he could come in and do really well in these last 7 games. I'm hoping that's what Wissa's got fired up to do. Or Voltemada's been put into a team that's been coached for him to do.
Yeah.
There's so much going on in that forward line that hasn't happened this season that, I would clear as many of the decks as you possibly can and start again.
I agree. Peter, what do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I think Asula is just a really strange... He's a difficult one to work out because at the start of this season, and there was rumours then with Villa wanting Asula.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was thinking, what is going on here? We can't let that happen, can we? Because I think I was thinking in my mind, he's got more to give. The best is still to come. Let's see if he comes on this season and develops. But yeah, this season it's strange because he was getting to that point, wasn't he? Where I think before the Man United goal, like kind of every appearance before that, really he hadn't really done enough to show that he was ready to come in and step in and make an impact. But that Man United goal was special, and then it just shows these flashes where you think there is something there. But if you're going to be really kind of look at it in the cold light of day, I think ultimately he probably hasn't shown enough to say that certainly not to start. If you're thinking about next season as well, I guess we've still got a bit to play for this season. We've got 7-8 games left. See what maybe he might show something that makes you kind of stand up and take note. But yeah, I think maybe sell him and get good money. But someone said in the comments there as well, saying about maybe putting him out on loan. Now that's something else that I was thinking of when you were talking about him there, Ian. Is that maybe something that we could do? Because he seems like someone who needs to develop. There's something there. He's got potential, but he's at the same time he's not a kid anymore, is he? He's not like a 19-year-old. So
Nah.
Maybe put him out on loan and then reassess again next summer. I don't know, but I don't think I'm not looking at him as a player to start next season.
Nah, completely
Just
agree.
with regard to what to Aston Villa's interest, their interest cooled immediately. They were allegedly interested at 30 million mark, but they have serious FFP problems, as do we, and UEFA, and obviously they're in Europe and looking to get into Europe again this season. UEFA told them that if they did, they checked up on it, and the money they got for Ramsey would be wiped off the books, because UEFA would consider it a swap deal because of the time frame. They would consider Asula and Ramsey as a swap deal.
So that's the new rule changes, is it?
So that's the new UEFA rule changes. Yeah.
Wow. So that rules out any sort of deal between Newcastle and Villa for any player. I know we weren't going to get Morgan Rogers or someone like that, but you look at teams we've done business with, and you'd assume now you do business with a team once, and that's going to be it.
There's a restrictive. It's got to be close in time for it to be a swap. Surely you can go back and sell somebody the following season a year later. That's not a swap deal, surely.
Yeah, well, I think it might have been with it being the summer window and the winter window. I don't know, but anyway, it was definitely reported that UEFA had said that if the bought Asula, it would be considered a swap deal.
To be fair, Frankfurt came in as well, didn't they?
Yeah, Frankfurt offered 30.
It seemed to me. It looks like Newcastle were in two minds. Do you know what I mean? It seemed at one point he was like on the brink of going, didn't it? And then it didn't happen. I wonder, are Newcastle a bit undecided of whether he's kind of got potential or not?
I think it might have been one of those, either him or Isak was going to leave, and we just didn't really know which one it was going to be. Was there in there with another super chat as well? Thank you very much, buddy. We need a new spine, and we need to be clever with it. And to be honest, one way, just before we finish, one way that we could be maybe a little bit cleverer is dealing with agents, and I do apologise if that's a bit small for anyone on the screen there, but that is the agent fees and the amounts that has been spent last season from basically in regards to giving money to agents. And you see Chelsea there in the 60 millions, no one else outside of the top, everyone else is below 40 million. So I think that tells you everything you need to know about Chelsea there. But Newcastle just sat there on 20 million. And we do, maybe that's because we don't do a lot of outgoing deals, etc. But you look at these agent fees, and to be honest, I think they're absolutely atrocious. Is there any? Why are agents getting 20 million? I'm not entirely sure. But you're looking at you're looking at some of the sales in there. You think I don't know if it would have Isak would have had probably a part of his deal where part of that would have went to the agents, etc. That's not included either. But 460 million spent on agent fees from Premier League clubs last season. Does that tell you just where the Premier League's going, Ian?
Yes, it's awful, isn't it? I'm just thinking if that was their income, that puts them about fifth in the league table of income in the clubs. They should start their own club.
Imagine the scenes.
Agents FC.
Yeah. No, it's outrageous though, isn't it? That much money coming out. I mean, it's coming out of a huge chunk of telly money. It's not out of our ticket money, which is good. But I mean, still a lot, isn't it? It's a lot, and it'll keep going up because it's always Mr. 10%, isn't it? So
Yeah, but
going up as
can
the
you imagine
transfer fees
if I was a player? Do I honestly think the agent would be able to get more than me?
Insane, isn't it?
It blows my mind that they think they need agents.
A lot of them use family members, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, some players didn't have agents. I'm sure Paul Scholes didn't have an agent, you know. I think he said that when he was playing. He said he didn't need one.
Did he?
I mean, fair enough, he didn't move, but like...
But because he signed for Man United when he was 10 and he never moved.
Yeah. Yeah, but like, that's true, but like, you know, there's interest, isn't there? You know, agents now, when there's interest from other clubs, will be kind of knocking on the door of the player saying, "Here, you should go to this club, you should go to that club," because the motivation for them is to get a piece of that cake. So
that's
maybe
the agent's motivation. But I'm saying from a player's point of view, again, if you're Paul Scholes, you're playing in a team that's winning the Premier every year, challenging for Champions League every year, and you're probably one of the top paid players in the Prem anyway.
Yeah, but in today's world, if you were to replicate that and plonk that into today's Premier League, you'd have Real Madrid, you'd have all these, Barcelona, whoever, and then you'd have the agent saying to Paul Scholes, maybe you should get yourself away.
Yeah.
Well, but I don't think it's any coincidence that Man City have been so successful, because look at the players that they have on their books for years and years and years. The stalwarts of that team who don't move. And again, it's because they're getting paid top dollar. They're winning everything. What's the incentive for them to move?
Yeah, absolutely. To be honest, it's...
Bournemouth spend a lot, though, don't they?
Yeah, actually.
Spend the same as we are.
And could we maybe argue that that's because they do so many deals in South America, and the rules there may be slightly different?
And some South American agents just love a little bit of dollar. Aye, that's the thing. It could always
Michael,
be the case.
I know we're nearly finished, but can I just be rude and say good night to everybody? Because my latest Ukrainian van load of glass products has just arrived, and I've got to go and unload it.
Oh, that's absolutely fine.
Tomorrow night.
Catch you later.
That's the thing. Ian Mackay leaving us there. See you in a bit, Ian. And to be honest, that is the end of our show. Anyways, so he's got pretty perfect timing, has Mr. Mackay there. So that is all for the Thursday night show. If you've enjoyed, like, subscribe, drop your thoughts in the comments, and remember to become a member to this channel and show your support for $4.99 a month, because you get so much brilliant content, and there's even more coming in the future. And remember, just stay tuned, hit the notification bell, because this summer everything is going to change and we're going to cover every single story, even the ones that smell a little bit like bull. Good night, see you tomorrow. Oh,
keep the faith and away the lads.
There we go, lasses and bairns.
Or the lads.